Good evening, everyone. Call to order. This meeting of the Plan Commission is going to be called to order. Colleen Visa.
Here.
Zach Ewell.
Here.
Jeff Funk.
Here.
Gary Gruber. John Fitzgerald.
Here. Corey Jones.
Here. Rita Payleitner.
Here.
All right. If everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you very much. We're going to present the meeting minutes for the March 2026 meeting of the Plan Commission. I believe Rita Payleitner has one amendment to those.
I do. Thank you. On page 70, it says, I'm not anti-site. I'm not anti-sidewalk. And I want to be part of a city that's keeping its promises. And very orderly, but I meant promises. Yeah, that's what I said. Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So with those amendments, can we have a vote?
Yep.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Item 5, 9th Street Commons. Before we start, I'll just note that we received an email that was not part of the package from Kaylee Wango regarding this project, of which she has several comments, but not in favor. And that'll be part of the meeting record, and it'll be with staff if anybody needs to see that. All right, this is a concept plan submittal by Pulte Home Company for a 27-acre site northwest of downtown. The purpose of our concept plan is to review and allow an applicant to obtain informal input on a conceptual development prior to filing formal zoning applications and preparing detailed plans and drawings. The concept plan process also serves as a forum for our citizens and any neighboring property owners to ask questions, express their views on this potential development. The procedure for tonight will start with staff, followed by the applicant's presentation. After that, the Plan Commission will ask questions that they may have. Then the members of the public will be allowed to speak and have a chance to do so. And then after all of that, a final step will be Plan Commission members will provide final feedback to the applicant for this point. The Plan Commission does not take any action to approve or deny a project at this stage. This is an information process only. After this meeting, the concept plan will be discussed at the City Council Committee of the Whole on May 4th. So if you're here for that project, there's your next venue. If the applicant decides to pursue the project, zoning applications would need to be filed, a public hearing would be held, and we would come back to start in this room again with us. If anyone wishes to speak, if you could please be recognized by me, stand at the lectern. We have a court reporter tonight. State your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record.
Thank you. This concept plan called 9th Street Commons has been submitted by Pulte Home Company for the 27-acre property northwest of downtown, south of the railroad tracks, formerly known as the Applied Composites property, also known as Lexington Club. The plan proposes 93 single-family home lots and 12 townhomes with various access points interconnected to the surrounding neighborhood. RT3 and RM2 zoning and a PUD are proposed. Tonight we have Matt Brawley from Pulte Group and Nick Peppers, attorney for developer, here tonight to present the project.
Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Nick Peppers, 3 Norm Ellen Durkin, attorney for Pulte. Good to see you, and thank you for having us tonight. As Ellen said, yes, Pulte is the contract purchaser for the approximately 27 acres, which we'll get to in the site plan in a minute, at the western part of the downtown in St. Charles. Also with us tonight is Matt Brawley, VP of Entitlements for Pulte's Illinois division. I'd like to thank staff, Russ, Ellen, and Bruce, for their engagement up until now, helping us work through the staff report and staff comments to kind of bring this forward to you for the concept plan review, application and review. I know, at least I hope you have the staff report. It's very comprehensive. It's very thorough. It does a great job. I'm not going to spend a lot of time walking through the details of it. Of course, be glad to answer any questions you might have. But what I'd like to do first is just perhaps give a little backstory context to the property for the benefit of this commission and maybe those in the audience. And then Matt will be glad to go through the plan after that, and we'll be available for questions. So if I can figure out how to work this. Got it. See, I need help already. This is the site location. Just for reference, you can see the location, north of Dean Street, south of the railroad tracks, Bannon, and the city streets that come up to it from the south. This site was industrial for many, many, many years, at least through 63. This is a picture in 2002. As I understand it, 2005, Composite ceased business at this site. The building was demolished in 2010 and has remained vacant since that point in time. This gives you an idea of the scope of the industrial activity that was on that property at the time. Going forward, 2013, what became the Lexington Club was presented to the city. This was the first iteration and the only approved plan for the property that currently stands, at least from the zoning standpoint. As you can tell from this, majority of the property to the west was townhomes, to the east, single family, and it had a density of at least, I think, 5 units per acre at the time. There's also TIF involved. This site has an incredible amount of cost associated with its redevelopment. And at that time, the city provided a TIF to help with some of the relocation, site development costs, and environmental costs. The density of this site, for reference, is 5.5, and rezoned it from industrial to the townhome component and then to the single-family home component to the east. That zoning is still in place. PUD is expired. 2015, 2 years later, Lexington reapproached this city with a different plan. That plan here converted everything to single family. If I recall staff telling me this was a lot more well received, and this site ended up at 3.91 dwelling units per acre, and was brought to the Plan Commission. I think it was favorably received, but it died there. It never went on to City Council. Lexington abandoned their plans to redevelop the property, and so this plan was never brought forward. But for context, this is the last approach that was taken on the property. So before I turn this over to Matt and I talk a little bit about some of the zoning issues regarding the property, I'd like to introduce who Pulte is. I mean, I imagine most of you know that, but Pulte is a public home builder. Its stock trades under the symbol PHM. It's the third largest home builder in the nation, third largest home builder in the Chicago region. Has been building homes in the Chicago region for nearly 60 years. There's both credibility, power, and financial ability to undertake a project of this scope. In 2025, he sold over 1,000 homes in the Chicago area. The focus has been Illinois. They have identified this site as a rather unique infill development, which we'll get into in a minute, to take advantage of, well, we all believe is, what I believe is the great city of St. Charles and the school systems that it provides. More context, the zoning map. This is the current treatment of the property on the zoning map. You'll see that the RM2, which is the single family, the townhomes to the majority of the west, and then the RT3, which is to the northeast. It still got the PUD designation on it, but that's burned off from now. What's important about this map is that you'll see the surrounding zoning uses, really a mishmash of zoning around this property. This is a rather mature site from when the city was first developed, and you've got, industrial to the west. You've got industrial, which is the railroad tracks to the north, which acts as a major buffer to the Timbers area across to the north. You've got industrial to the east. You've got RT3 going clockwise to the south, more industrial. Then you've got RT4, R1, RM2. I mean, there's just an incredible amount of diverse zoning that has gone on around this property. Important to note that 93 homes and 12 townhomes. The 12 townhomes that Matt can go over, this will be at the northeast section of the property. Comprehensive plan. This is the current comprehensive plan that was done, I think, in 2013, which identified the site pretty much currently as it's now zoned single-family detached and single-family attached. Really what's going to be proposed here tonight is the realignment of those two uses for more single-family and less townhome, and then imposed with a PUD. The proposal is consistent with the surrounding residential uses and character. The residential areas rezoned from about a density of 4.0 to 4.1 per acre. We're at 3.85. Now, they utilize existing road network and connections from North Avenue, 9th, 7th, 6th, and Mark Street, utilizing existing utility infrastructure. Preliminary reports secured by staff indicate that water service, sanitary service for this property should not be an issue. Of course, that'll be borne out by final engineering should this project get that far, but it's good to know that they've already made that analysis. You know, this is one of those comprehensive plan goals of taking precedent of infill city development without a burden on existing city infrastructure. This isn't a greenfield. This isn't on the perimeter of the city. This isn't involving an annexation. This is a project of 27 plus acres in the city, which is pretty remarkable that it's been empty as long as it has. But it, like I said earlier, it does have challenges. And Pulte's undertaken to put it under contract and then prioritize this development with the plan you're going to see in a minute. It's an adaptive reuse of essentially an abandoned manufacturing property to bring much needed and I think much desired residential rooftops to the city. It's going to increase the tax base, and frankly, to put 102 homes in that area that are within walking distance of your downtown commercial area, it's pretty remarkable, and it's going to be quite the injection, we believe, into this area. And with that, I will turn it over to Matt Crowley to walk you through the particulars of the Pulte uses on the property and how it's going to work. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, my name is Matt Brawley. I'm from Pulte Home Company. Thank you for allowing us to present this evening. I'm a civil engineer, so naturally, my favorite slide of the deck is a topographic survey that's colored. The key that we try and articulate here is the amount of fall, the elevation drop across the site at 60 feet from the high point at 756 down to the low point now at the southeast of 696 and change. So it's a tremendous amount of fall for our region, for projects that we do, especially for residential sites. So there's really a lot of site constraints for us to work with. But I do highlight that to show you and show the group. Detention obviously generally goes at the southern edge of that, along where we have the creek, along our southern property line. It kind of wiggles in and off the property, which I'll show you on the next slide. This next slide is back to the site plan, but I do have the flood, FEMA flood map on here as well. So you can see the creek, which generally starts a little bit after the 12th Street. I walked it the other day, and it's a little bit of a ditch, but as you go and further, it becomes more and more creek-like. We are respecting the creek and the floodplain around there, so it really won't factor in too much into our site design. But again, just kind of highlighting why our basins are where they are on the site. And so that brings you to the proposal for this property. Our vision includes 105 total units, which is 2 less than the last Lexington plan that was before you, 93 homes and 12 townhomes. We'll talk more about those individual uses in a second. But I'll walk you through the roadway access. As Nick had mentioned, we are maintaining access to 4 public streets. We have Mark Street, 6th Street, going from the east to the west, 7th Street, 9th Street. And then we are, as we'll talk about, proposing, taking staff's recommendation to do a fire access out to 12th Street. I walked that the other day, and we will explore that as we go into preliminary, but I do think it's possible for us to make that connection. Again, we're just trying to ensure that the grading works, but otherwise, we'll come back with that next time. On the pedestrian side, we are proposing, we'll have 2 access points to the future, rails to trails to the north. We're proposing 1 pedestrian connection into Belgiumtown Park, and then, as staff requested, we'll also have a trail connection along the emergency fire route to the gravel path that exists. If you've been out there, there's a gravel path that kind of meanders to the park now. Most of it, I wouldn't say most of it. There's a good chunk of it that is on our property. There's some of it that kind of wanders off our property into existing property to the south, but we'll work through that at preliminary. And naturally, we'll include public sidewalks on-site and then some key off-site sidewalks as well that staff identified in the report. All right, moving on to the homes. So what we're going to be offering in this site is, in this community, is 3 different single-family detached homes. We have 30-foot wide, 35-foot wide, and 40-foot wide. Those are not very fun names, but the 30-foot wide homes that we'll offer are generally on the smaller side. They're going to be slightly more cost-effective than the others, going from 2,100 square feet to 2,567. Standard 3 bedrooms, and everything has a 2-car garage with 5 different elevations to choose from. The reason why we give ranges for the Pulte homes is that we don't build any spec homes. You come into our sales center, you select the site that you would desire, the floor plan that you desire, and then what structural options that you would like to add to your home, whether it's the sunroom, we have garage extensions, we have some second-story space on some of these. And that is available for our 30, 35, and 40-foot ranch series, although I don't have the ranch square footages listed, but those actually can fluctuate the most. I guess I'll jump to that. Our ranch 40-foot series of ranches, the Mystique and the Prestige are actually 2 of our most popular Del Webb floor plans that we're currently offering at our Del Webb in Aurora, or if you go to any Del Webb across the country, they are pretty much the same floor plan, same names. But with those, they're 2-bedroom, 2-bath standards. So if those are folks in your community that are looking to downsize, stay in the community they love, this is the perfect option for them. But it also, they have the opportunity to add a second floor to that, or we call it the pop top. For additional square footage, you can build it out with a bedroom, really build it out to fit your unique needs based on your family. So go back up to the 35-footers. These range from 1,900 square feet up to over 2,700 square feet. These are 4 bedrooms, and then again the 2-car garage. These, I would say, are the largest of the product that we will be offering in this community. We are currently offering these, and I'll show you in a second, down the road in Batavia, near their downtown. Lastly, on the townhomes, we do have 12 townhomes on the site plan off to the east on Mark Street. There are 3-story front-loaded townhomes, so it's got a 2-car garage with a front door all on the front. It's not rear-loaded, but these are 3-story, and then they do have the option for what we call a habitable attic, habitable loft. It's additional square footage, pretty unique in the market for folks to have additional square footage upstairs on what we're calling in the loft area. And then I'll move into a couple renderings. We'll stay in the townhomes real quick. This is the same elevation that was in your packet. It's just rendered. And so what you see here is the 4-unit townhome building and a darker espresso color package, providing an appealing streetscape. And the total building height, as we noted in our application, is just under 40 feet. So we will be seeking a deviation for that. I don't have the exact square footage because it kind of depends on things like the insulation that code requires locally in the attic. I've had that come up in a recent project. So it will be somewhere between 38 and 40 foot as measured by your code. We'll move into the Springs. This is the Nelson floor plan, which has proven to be very popular down in Naperville at our Polo Club location. This is the model. You can see we have lap siding. We've added some architectural details to these, and those continue to ramp up as the several options that I submitted. So you see our first floor plan, our first elevation per floor plan, and then second, third, fourth, and fifth all have different character, same theme, but allow you to, comply with anti-monotony requirements, and then allow folks, as they choose, to upgrade their front elevation to fit their needs and desires. And the last one is our boardwalk. This is a 35-foot series plan. This is the model at Ashton Ridge down in Batavia. You can see we added some additional masonry on this one with similar architectural features and probably the exact same color package because it's very popular. We obviously wouldn't do that for our models here, exactly the same. But the one thing I did want to point out that I didn't mention on the site plan is our whole plan here is that we didn't articulate it on here, but we have 3 different widths of lots that we've interspersed in the community. And we've done that to, as closely as we can, mimic that of a historic downtown, and that, not every home is the same width, not every lot is the same width, and give it a little bit more streetscape appeal as you're walking down the road up at the north. And I think the last one is just the colorized exhibit of the site plan. We're excited to present the project tonight. I welcome your feedback and really look forward to bringing this to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
I've got a couple questions. Is there a plan for a tree survey, or have you completed one yet?
We have the tree survey from last time that we're going to use as our base, and we'll go from there.
And so what's the plan with all the trees? Are you guys going to be saving any trees, or, because it looks like you're taking down basically all the trees that are in the area?
Yes. With the plan that was approved last time, most of the trees, I would say, in the center of the site were removed. The tree preservation plan from the last project did include saving some along the west property line and then along the creek corridor as well.
Okay, because it would be nice, I think, that if, especially in the retention areas, if there was, if you could save a lot of especially the older trees, from that tree survey, and even incorporating, some of the older trees into the site plans, if it's possible. I know it's difficult with the density that you guys are creating, but I think it would be nice to, the pictures you're showing of these facades, you're showing a lot of trees in the area, so it'd be nice to kind of, as opposed to taking them all down and planting, 3-inch trees throughout the community. It looks like a brand new neighborhood.
Okay.
The facades that you have, and I was reading in the, the staff report regarding the 50%, more than 50% of the facade is on the first floor is all garage. Is there any way you could break that up and make it so it's not so overwhelming?
And it's 50%. We're greater than the 50% cap for the width.
Yeah.
It is just a function of the length of the house. So this is our 40-foot wide home. We comply on this one. This is the 35-foot wide home. I believe we're just under. And then this is the 30-foot home, and we are under on that.
And those actually look nicer than some of the ones that were presented in the PDF, the presentation that was sent to us. So if there's a way that you can emphasize the entrance, and I don't know if that's with columns or, some sort of loggia or something, or some sort of overhang in front that kind of pushes the garage back so it sets it back, creates shadows, so it's not so overwhelming. Yep. It'd be nice. And then the driveways, too, if you can kind of minimize those. I know there's a minimum requirement for driveways, but there's options there to break that driveway up, so it's not, because these lots are so small in width that if there's a way to break that up with whether it's landscaping or pavers or something that would be so it wouldn't be so obtrusive. What's the price point on these homes?
How do I know you would ask that? The 30-foot wide series, that's going to be, actually, let me start from the bottom. The townhomes will actually be the more cost-effective. The base price of those will be $530. Okay. We expect that with buyer options, they will close around $600. We'll move up to the 40-foot ranch series. Those are $600,000. Again, probably closing in the $725s. The 30-foot wide series, $570 to $645. And then at the upper end of this, the 35-foot wide series will start at about 635, and they'll close around 740.
Okay. And what's the plan for the inclusionary housing? The 10% required?
Yes, we ran the calc on that several different ways. Worked with staff for a couple of months. I have the actual figures here. So we are going to be requesting to pay the $262,000. The delta to make, we were looking to try and make the townhomes affordable if we could, but to sell those at 80% of the AMI, we would need to sell them under cost or recoup, I think it's $1.7 million from somebody else.
Okay.
So our intention is to pay the fee.
I mean, if there is a way that you can incorporate, maybe working with the Housing Commission, I know there are some opportunities there to, kind of offset some of those things, but I think it's important that, I mean, there is a need for affordable housing in our community, and, these are beautiful homes, and it'd be nice to, incorporate that idea.
Mm-hmm.
And my last point would be just, try to create, you talk about paths, connections to the bicycle paths. If there's a way that you can create some park-like structures in the area around the retention areas, maybe some walking paths would be nice, maintaining some of those existing trees that are, over 150 years old would be nice. And then incorporate that into those park-like areas, retention areas. So I think it would actually be a benefit to the community and to the, not only to your neighborhood, but to the surrounding neighbors. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Quick question. So, thank you for asking Jeff about the price range. So the 2-bedroom, is that the one that you said that would start at 600?
Yes.
Okay. So I totally appreciate, there's, I think Jeff really hit on a bunch of points. You made mention that, this would be a great area for people that looking to downsize. That price point to me isn't quite in my mind as people that might want to downsize. And I understand, there's a cost-benefit analysis that you guys have to do. I'm certainly not going to ask you to try to lose money on this. But if there is a way, I mean, we obviously have an affordable housing crisis right now. And St. Charles is actually one of the few communities left where people can buy into the downtown at a relatively affordable price. I mean, I live in an area that has older, historic, small homes. So you can still get a home in my neighborhood for under $500,000. It might need a lot of work, but you can do it. So, again, I kind of think that Jeff hit upon the point. If there's just any way you guys can look at the numbers in any capacity that offers some level of affordability, because I do think we need it, and I think there's young families that are looking to come into a community and live in their downtown. So I would encourage that if there's any possibility.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hey, Matt, how does the lot size in Ashton Ridge compare to the lot sizes that you'll be doing here?
The lot sizes in Ashton Ridge are 5,300 and we're 5,100. And
Pretty similar.
200 square feet, yeah.
Yeah, good. Thanks.
Yep, I just want to throw on about the affordable housing piece. Thanks to my colleagues for bringing that up. I served on the Housing Commission for 12 years, so I'm kind of know the ins and outs of it. And I see that staff had said that this project qualifies for alternative affordable housing plans. Now, when you said you worked with staff, did you look into those two options that they presented there, whereas you could get, a little extra besides just the percentage?
We've talked directly with staff about the shortage and the $1.7 million delta to make it financially viable for us. And I believe that the city has a pot of money for that. We generally don't, unless somebody else is going to purchase the homes and then resell them, we wouldn't be able to do what you would call restricted. We can't get mortgages for those. Our mortgage company can't work with that, with the restrictions that are on there. So other than reductions in fees from the city of St. Charles, I think that's really our only option.
Okay. Okay, I'll have to look over that a little more. And the other question I had when I was walking around the property the other day, one of our checkpoints that we're supposed to do, it says proposed land use and compatibility with surrounding development. And I noticed your 7th Street, your North 7th Street continuation as you enter into your project, that it's kind of taken up by a towing company right now. And they use on-street parking all the way up into what would be parts of your project. And they have across the street there, a location for their, the cars, the parking lot.
Yes.
With abandoned cars with broken windshields and all that.
Which is on our property, yes.
No, pardon?
Yeah, the stuff to the northeast where they're parking is our property.
Oh, it is your property? Because I was looking at the map and I thought maybe it wasn't.
I'm surprised
I'm
we
not
didn't see
surprised.
each other out there. I think everybody was out there this week, but yes.
Yeah.
You go to the north edge of that where that pavement is, that's inside our project boundary.
Okay, so they'll have to make an adjustment.
And same goes for the Mark Street. There's parking along the north side of Mark Street that's also on our property.
Yeah, right. That I saw too. Yeah, there's a lot of activity on your property right now. I noticed that. Okay, so I'm guessing then that you're will be in conference with that business to figure out what they can do then. I mean, right now they're allowed to park on the street.
I don't know if staff has any comment on with regards to their parking for
Yeah, they
commercial
park
vehicles.
on 7th Street all the way up north there. There were like 10 cars there on Sunday. Yeah.
Yes, so I believe there's also some parking going on within the right-of-way in that vicinity also, within the parkway essentially. So yeah, there will need to be some enforcement of parking regulations if this development were to move forward, as this development obviously would impact where those vehicles will be allowed to park.
Okay, yeah, and I'm just hoping in addition to, prior to enforcement, that there's conversation. And this is silly, but it's just a point of reference for myself. When you talked about Outlot D for your other, and I don't see it marked on the map. Oh, so it's not this one?
No.
Okay. Got it. All right. Thank you.
I had just, generally I like the site plan. I think you could add more townhomes, to be honest, if you so desired, whether it's a different product, meaning like a larger townhome product as a transitional that makes it pencil out better. I think that would work. Overall, I like the site circulation, the connectivity. I think it would be, key to fill in some of those sidewalk gaps off-site, work with the city on that, and then just echo what some of my colleagues have said about looking to retain some of the trees where possible. And then as far as, the architecture, I do like the wide range of options. I think it'd be nice to see some color palettes, if you do come back, something more than just blue and grays, but, that's just my personal taste.
Well,
Concept is great. I'd love to see some trees retained, and the whole aspect of housing affordability, you're going to hear it at least for another 8 years, I think. So it's not going to go away.
I appreciate the time and energy it takes to even get to this point from a soft cost standpoint. There's a lot of effort that goes into this, so I appreciate that. I have a question on, are there any environmental issues that are still yet to be resolved?
Yes, so the site was previously in the state's SRP program. We have done a phase 1, phase 2 on the site, and we will, if it's not already, bring it to residential standards before we grand open for sales on the site. We have a plan that we're working on right now.
Okay. Okay. Wasn't sure if all that had been taken care of.
No.
As part of the Lexington
That's what
effort.
we're taking those efforts
You
on.
guys are taking that on. Okay. All right. And then as part of the general site analysis, are there any wetlands that you're having to address?
You know what, we're going out there right now. We couldn't go out in the winter, but 10 years ago there was a wetland right around here that should it still exist, that we would be mitigating for with the project. So we would either pay mitigation or mitigate it on the basin if it was possible.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because I was, walking through the property or kind of along the edges of the property, actually, from the park, and walking from the park to the west. And I noticed that there were, kind of like that western portion of the land had some overflow routes that were coming, small, minor, but usually those are indications of slower drainage and, all of that kind of thing, which tends to then, on its own, create its own little fun wetlands. And I just wasn't sure if you had looked into that yet. May not be a problem, given the topographic relief that's on the property. I think there was a comment asking about, from staff regarding the secondary access and the fire department's whole concern about that, which is a legitimate concern. You indicated you were looking to maybe connect out towards 12th. Would that be a full right-of-way, a driveway? What were your thoughts on that? And why would you choose that versus eliminating, let's see, lots 21 and 31, and connecting between 9th and your new street on the north side of the industrial property?
North side of here, yeah. So I was out in the field the other day as well, looking at a connection out to 12th Street as a fire access only. I think we can accommodate that. The only issue engineering-wise is from this cursor point up to where we want to be at the road is about a 17-foot rise. So it'll be about a 9% fire access route. So I need to confirm with staff that would be acceptable. Generally, we wouldn't be supportive of adding a roadway connection this way, because I do think once you add a roadway right-of-way, you would be impacting the waters, which I believe are probably waters of the U.S. We have chosen not to eliminate the two lots immediately north of the industrial building. We are going to provide fencing and landscaping, but otherwise, a simple roadway connection through there, I think, makes the other two lots also undesirable, because you're kind of the only house stuck in there, and then you've lost 4 lots, and then you have a road going behind homes. Kind of monkeys with the whole site plan. We looked at it several different ways, up to and including purchasing that property, which was not possible.
Okay. All right. I think that the people talk about pedestrian circulation, and I think that it's super important. I mean, certainly public sidewalks, are a standard per our right-of-way standards. And so those would be, of course. But like as an example, the connection from the western portion down to the park kind of runs along the back of the industrial site. And it just seems a very unattractive connection to do that, from what I could see. And if you go to the far northwestern part of the park, there's a playground area with a path that's stubbed into the property. And I think that seems like a much more pleasant place to make that connection and to create a neighborhood connection that then flows through to the neighbors to the south. So I realize, stormwater volume is stormwater volume. Being a civil engineer, all the requirements, I'm sure, as well as SEMCON does. But I think that if more of a landscape buffer could be placed along the back of that industrial property, that would enhance the neighborhood, and then making the path connection from almost the northwest corner of the park across up to the street, which to me seemed to make a lot more sense. But I realize there's topography issues, there's, a number of things, stormwater volume, is it a pedestrian path or is it a bridge? Again, something to work out through volume calculation, so I get that part of it. But I think that would be a worthwhile thing to explore. The existing, where it says right-of-way to be vacated, is that still yet to be done, or is it done?
Nope, still right of way.
Okay, so there seems to be a lot, when I'm looking at Outlot B, and specifically your stormwater management area, I see you have, obviously the floodway is way across the southern part for State Street Creek, and you have a right of way vacated. I don't know how far the general volume calculations are based on general requirements that a civil engineer would use at this time, but there seems like a lot of land that's underutilized, if you will.
I wish he was here for this.
Okay, so and realize you also have to address the topographic change, make up contours, make up space to get down to creating your level basins, right? I understand all that, but it just seems, just visually at this point at the concept plan, realizing you haven't worked through every contour, it just seems like there's a lot of free space, and that the stormwater could be worked to either allow more trees to be preserved, if in fact they were trees worthy of being preserved. I mean, there's trees, and then there's trees worthy of being preserved. And those are two different things, from my perspective. I know not everybody shares that, but I think that there is. And so I would ask, as part of tree preservation, efficiency of use, that you kind of maybe relook at that specific outlot right there, and maybe to a lesser degree, Outlot A. I don't know. I mean, obviously everything flows ultimately to State Street Creek. So, but I don't know if there's a simple way to shift any water from, let's say, Basin C towards Basin B without creating a huge bunch of engineering or oversizing of pipes. So then that would free up that ability to have the path go across, not lose your volume calcs and those kinds of things. Realizing that requires a little bit of work and gymnastics by your civil engineer, but I think it'd be a worthwhile thing. Because I think as part of that, I think it'd be nice to get, at a minimum, a path system that would go around or along sides of these ponds, maybe in conjunction with a path that went along State Street Creek, right? So if you came from 6th Street to 7th Street as a pedestrian, you could walk along a path, maybe along the creek or between the creek and the pond, and then make that connection instead of only walking around on the street. So there'd be different ways to kind of create loops that people could use to do that. And the same thing with Basin B. But I think Basin C and the pond, depending on what you do with the driveway, the fire department connection and how staff sees a 9% grade or whatever it ends up being able to be graded at, I think it'd be great if there was a way from, because you can come down now from the park, if you've been out there, right, and you can get pretty well on a paved path. If there was a way to connect that, even if it overlapped onto the fire department drive lane, if that could become a way for people to use, realizing they may have some property issues, but the trees that I saw down in that area, if you could keep it on your property, I didn't see too many trees that were noteworthy, that if you could keep it on your property and make that happen, I think would be a great asset, because now you would connect the park in a much more positive way over toward 12th Street, and I think that would be very much a community benefit. I understand that we have RM2 zoning and RT3 zoning, and I think, if I remember, not every detail from our staff's very thorough report, that you're asking for a number of exceptions. Can you help me understand why you need those deviations?
Yeah, certainly. So, I don't know if I said this already. So let me pull up real quick. So one thing we did with the site plan is start from where Lexington left off, honestly. So we end up with less units, but we do have some of the similar deviations that they have. I think we have one additional, and there's one that we're not. They had a rear yard setback of 25, which we're not asking for, but they did have the garage. I don't know about the porch. I could pull it up. But then the lot coverage is a big one. I spent a lot of time talking about this in some communities. The number that I put in the report was a simple box that fits all of our buildings. So if you look at specifically, the different product, we'd be going from 38 to 48%. 45% was the variance that Lexington got approved on the site as well. So we really did start with that as a baseline for trying to make this site work. And maybe it's, I think it's probably understood in this room, but the site is very expensive to develop. There's the electrical that's on the site that needs to be taken care of. There's the environmental cleanup, the 60-foot of fall demo. What else? We have some off-site work we have to do as well. So it just really all adds up to where 105 units really is our sweet spot. So we did start from where they left off with some of our deviations. All right. So one of the new ones is our lot width to go down to 41 feet. That's to accommodate or to allow for our 30-foot product. I would say our maximum building coverage will be on par with what was approved previously. They also had a 5-foot interior setback, which again is our minimum. We're probably more like 5.5 or 6, depending on the product type, which will come in at preliminary with. And then they were asking for a 25-foot rear yard setback, and we are not asking for that. We're fine with 30. Accommodates our buildings. I think that's the extent of the deviations for the single family.
Okay, that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, just as a recommendation, I mean, I appreciate the two connections up to the railroad right away that you're showing, as if you will, as a starting point. I think those should be selected at a place that from a grade standpoint, based on your roadways, that makes the most sense, where you have the most closest relationship, so that they become something that's encouraging for people to use, not a challenge for people to use, assuming that we get our rails to trails thing to get all worked out. But it just, so to me, if they moved east or west, it's kind of immaterial. I think making them as usable as possible is always a good idea. I would also say on the townhomes, overall the appearance is fine. They as a streetscape, based on the elevation that you showed today, not attractive from a streetscape standpoint. You have basically zero space for planting along the face of those units at the foundation level, because of the garage, where the doors are, and that you bring the sidewalk straight out, and that you don't go left or right onto the driveways. So right now, all I see is across the frontage, basically different types of pavement. And while there will be a street tree between the public walk and the curb, I don't find that, unless I was literally in downtown St. Charles, I don't find that overly attractive.
So I would point out one inaccuracy, I guess, in this is we won't take our walk straight to the sidewalk. I just noticed that now. Actually, the render added that. We'll curl it right to the front of the building. I'll have some pictures when we come back.
Yeah, I mean, I just think these are all small things, but I think at detail level, those things all contribute to how a project is looked at, perceived, and then, if you will, appreciated by the public in general. I appreciate the effort as an organization, so thank you, and I hope that you will come back, and if we have other members.
You know what, I want to bounce on something that Peter had said. This here, we're calling that, right? Perhaps the fire entrance that the staff was talking about off at 12th. I'm looking at the drawing. I mean, that's like underwater right now, right? Is that part of the waterway that's, is that going to be an issue?
No, so the lines that are shown on here are the FEMA floodplain map scaled.
Yeah, well, I know my grandson has played in that, so I know that
are you talking like here where do a fire access connection?
Well, it's following it down from the park, kind of walking in the...
here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wet.
Yeah.
It's floodplain too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I understand it's floodplain, but it's also, there's standing water now, right? Yeah.
And we can't fill it. I think it would just be a park that's in a flood area, not a park, a trail that's in a flood area, which is allowed to occur.
Right. But didn't you say that's where the fire department, western?
We would make the connection right here and kind of hug our property line here.
Yeah, right.
Is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
So this isn't the wettest. I know exactly what you're talking about when you got in here. Yeah. There's a box culvert on the other side of the road, on the other side there, that does end up, it's pretty wet. It's very wet right now, but yeah, it will.
Well, if not now, never, you know.
It can flood.
Okay, but that won't interfere in.
No, the fire access won't.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from our commissioners before we open it up to the public?
I'm good.
At this point, I mean, we do get around to if things pop into your head. So at this point, I'd like to open it up to the public. As far as if there's anyone here who would like to speak and share thoughts related to this project. If you could just please come up. Thank you. Yeah, and if you could please state your name and address for our court reporter.
Sure. Jan Barbell, 269 Sedgwick Circle. So I'm directly within the timbers and the manor homes, directly on the other side of this development. I wasn't planning on talking, but a lot of things came up, so I'm glad I came. One question was about where is the pedestrian access to the bike path, the future bike path? Yeah, please.
I'll highlight it on this so they can all see where I'm pointing. So we currently have one on the drawing here, and then staff recommended that we include one up this way. Well, he's gonna.
Okay. All right, thank you. I just was curious about that. And regarding the elevation, that is a big concern for me and probably everybody else in the timbers, because right now there's kind of a gully and a hill up to where the old railroad tracks were. I think you all probably know what I'm talking about. So with the height of the townhomes, because I think the townhomes are going to be right behind Sedgwick Circle, and those being so high, even with the elevation change, will that be our view now instead of trees? Will we now be seeing the townhomes?
Sure. Yeah.
So I'll state a couple of things. I believe it's over 100 foot of what we would generally call like a buffer setback from our homes to your right-of-way. I know there's no homes on the side of the road. I don't know as far as the elevation. It's probable that you would be able to see these buildings. I think that it would be probable, but it's more than a 100-foot buffer. And also, we're not going to be removing any trees that are off our site to the north, in between our site and yours. Those will remain as is, untouched.
Okay. And my last question is about noise. So you talked about the tow trucks on the street. We hear them all the time. So getting rid of the tow trucks would be fabulous. The right-of-way is concerning because right now we do have people who are parking on Sedgwick and then they like walk through the woods to get up on the like little gravel trail. And we also have like kids on like motorbikes and things that are like zipping by. And fortunately, we've not heard it much yet this year. So the access and sound is a concern as well as the visibility to the construction. But generally speaking, I love it. Love the idea of having residential versus having industrial. I don't want to have a factory behind my house. I would much rather have beautiful homes, but I would appreciate kind of in keeping with the townhomes not being ideal in their view from the street. Maybe if there was a lower level that would not obstruct our view, that would be appreciated. So thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else have comments on this particular project?
Good evening. Steve Rehak, 705 Redden Court, resident of 3rd Ward for a long time. In the Timbers neighborhood, if you're looking at the map we have here, I guess from the north, I would think I'm one of the more impacted residents by this proposed plan. I understand it's early, so trying not to get too excited as we talk to other concerned neighbors. But my backyard directly overlooks this. We talked about a little bit of the elevation, trying to gauge that. I'm going to be staring at the top of houses where now I have trees and open fields and some power lines, of course, but we knew that when we moved in, and so now this is going to be quite a significant impact. So besides the aesthetics, a lot of concerns with the school district, along with all the other proposed developments that are ongoing in the area. We just went through quite a, I guess, painful process of proposed boundary changes over the last couple of years. I understand this commission has no authority over the school district, but your decisions and ultimately city council does impact the school district. So I would hate to see all these additional developments impact the Timbers neighborhood and Wild Rose. You probably remember some of those conversations being in the area over the last couple of years. Power lines were mentioned. I didn't see any of that in the packet that was posted online, so it's good to hear that that is being thought of. I imagine those would be buried. That's adding to some of the costs, I would assume, as well as the EPA concerns associated with this site from the factory and the industrial site from the 50s, the VOCs that are on the site, and all the remediation that needs to go along with that. While it'd be great to have it cleaned up, getting that funded is, you asked the question of, why so many homes on this of the developer. They need to make their money. I mean, it's the bottom line, just being very blunt. So while I get that and not totally opposed to development, but the density here impacting, TIF districts, potential congestion on the streets, the aesthetics, on top of just being in that area, Trine Court, formerly Porter Court, that changed business recently over the last couple of years since I've lived there. A lot more noise there. People are going to have backup alarms, machinery moving around right at 7 a.m. If you're paying $500,000 or $600,000 for a house and you start hearing that along with grinding noises from the plastics recycler factory that your house is directly next to, these are all things that it looks good on paper, but when you live there for 10 years and you know the ins and outs of these things, it definitely changes things. So I'm adamantly against the proposed concept at this point. I would echo the concerns of some of the neighbors in my direct cul-de-sac that I've already spoken with that I don't think we're able to make it tonight. But I'm a no. So I think that's only fair to the developer and the commission to hear early on in the phase. Didn't necessarily want to impact my evening and come here tonight, but I thought it was important to kind of come here and give that feedback directly to you guys. So thank you.
Thank you.
Lower this. My name is Dave Thomas. I'm at 212 North 6th Street. So I'm just north of State Street right there. I'd be one of the roads affected by the exit points here. My primary concern is traffic right there. We already have that plumbing company that's on 5th Street. There's a ton of traffic coming through there. We've got Priority Products. We've got a machine shop right there. We got Chad's Towing right there. These roads have parking on one side. So with the traffic of the Amazon trucks, their industrial equipment coming through there, it just seems like I'm going to be sandwiched between two very congested streets, State Street and then 6th Street. Overall, I would like to see something connect to a main street, whether it be Randall, 31. All this is going to be going right through, what do you say, 3 exit points? 4. Is it 9th Street, 6th, 7th, 9th, and Mark? Yeah, and Mark just curves around right over to 4th Street right there. So you're still going to have traffic going through 4th Street with a residential neighborhood right there too. So that's one concern, is the amount of traffic. Let's say there's 200 additional cars plus all the delivery drivers and all the other traffic that comes through there. You got 4 streets. That's going to be a lot of additional traffic for a very quiet neighborhood right now. The other thing is the school system. Middle schools, pretty packed right now. So, if we bring in that many more families right here in this area, I'm just worried that they're sort of packed at the gills right now. especially Thompson. I think they had to add, was about 125 more sixth graders this year. So just wondering if the school system could support it.
All right. Thank you.
So that's it. Thank you.
Ellen, I didn't remember in our packet, I saw there was a letter or comment from the Park District, but I didn't remember seeing anything from the school district. Have they formally?
They have not submitted a letter. I understand that some members, one of the department directors did meet with the school district earlier this week to talk about the project. They have not submitted any formal comments.
Okay. All right. They would have received the packet and any of the analysis on the land cache and all that, correct?
Yes. It's our routine to provide the Park District and the school district with proposed residential developments and land cache worksheets early on in the process at this phase so that they can bring forward any concerns that they have.
Sure. So to those that are concerned about the school district, I also would recommend that you reach out to your board because that shapes maybe how they respond to the city as far as things that they have as concerns. So we are way down the totem pole on providing direction on that. And so we do rely on the board itself, as we do with the Park District. But the Park District has sent a letter already, which I think was in the packet and was available online. But for the school district, they have not yet. So you please reach out to them. And then one thing I was going to ask, 1 minute, is for people who are north of the proposed project, where we have the railroad trestle and all this stuff, I'm assuming there's enough topographic data that could be available that maybe in the preliminary, it would be worthwhile to show how based on the pad elevations that you're finally going to grade to, right, whatever those are, because you haven't done that yet. But when you do that, if you can maybe provide some periodic cross sections between those homes and those pad elevations or the finished floor elevations through the railroad to the other side, because I think that would help explain in various points how that relationship exists. You're not, as you've already stated, they will not be able to remove trees that are within the 100-foot right-of-way of the railroad. So the trees that are there today are there, and those will not be removed or altered. But just from a general physical topographic standpoint, I think it would be helpful. So if that can be provided maybe at the preliminary level. Thank you.
Put that up.
Yeah. Please, I'm sorry.
Hi. I'm Julie Anderson. I live on 6th Street, just north of State and 6th. So this directly impacts my life and my neighborhood. I have a huge concern by the amount of housing. This project is enormous, and our neighborhood is really quiet. Kids play in the street. We walk our dogs. People bike. It would be nice if there was a trail, a way that we could walk along the creek to get to Belgium Park from 6th Street, because currently people just walk through like a field and down a gravel path. So I don't think there's anybody in my neighborhood who is against development. I'm just concerned by the amount, like the size and scope of this project and how much congestion and noise and traffic it's going to bring to my quiet neighborhood where I've lived for 12 years and I love it. And we have a great neighborhood, actually. All of our neighbors know each other and everybody's always out walking. And another big concern is the green space that's going to be taken away, because it is very quiet and wooded, and even though it's not kept up, it's a shame to take away all the green space to create this development instead of making the green space more accessible, like maybe enhancing Belgium Park and creating a bigger area where people can enjoy, as opposed to taking away a lot of the space. That's all. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Just as a general note, there was a comment about traffic and things like that. Staff has recommended, and for a project of this scale, it would be basically a given that a traffic impact study will be done by the developer, by the applicant, and then reviewed by the city's outside consultant, and then comments provided back and forth. So that would be forthcoming if they went to a preliminary plan level. That would be part of that submittal. So, yes.
Hello, my name is Robin Remke. I live on 1001 Dean Street, so I'm right off of 9th Street. So I know that we talked about the trees, but I kind of wanted to go off of the last woman that was speaking here. We have so much wildlife, and I love where I live. We've had deer in our backyard. We've had ducks that come across the road, and they go into our pond, and it's just a beautiful place to live. And it is. It's very quiet, and you can sit back there, and all you hear is wildlife. And it's all going to be taken away. And I don't know, once I saw this, I was just very disappointed because I think that we could preserve a lot more. And I know that the trees were talked about, but there was nothing really spoken about the animals. So I'm just pretty disappointed about that. And then the one last thing I wanted to say is we're not really a cookie cutter neighborhood. This whole area, all the houses are different. So I really didn't like how all the houses kind of look the same and the townhomes. So that's all I wanted.
Thank you. Anyone else on this topic? Seems like we have a good crowd for the next one. So. Okay. Well, at this point, we'll stop the public input on this application, and we have one last chance for staff. If there's any comments, but more openly commissioners, if there's, based on feedback, if there's anything else we want to convey to the applicant, and then we'll move on to our next agenda item. So, anybody else have anything to share? No?
No, I just want to say one last comment. I do appreciate you guys coming in. Being on the Housing Commission also, there is a need for housing and inclusionary housing especially. The ability to work with the landscape and the existing trees would be, vital. And obviously, you've got some great opportunities here to connect to the existing park and to screen the existing warehouse and industrials, which would be nice. It would benefit your community. So I do like the layout. I do like the streetscape and the connections to the existing streets. And I think after the traffic study is completed, I think it's going to work out well, and the connection to the future bike path. So appreciate all your hard work, and just keep in mind some of those notes that we talked about.
Okay. Everybody else okay?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
I would just, as a final comment, I think that the general connection to our streets grid, if you will, is super important, and so I appreciate that. Life safety is life safety, and you have a plan. If that doesn't pan out, or the grades are not acceptable with the fire department, we might be on to Plan B, which was not your favorite, but we'll see when you sort that out a little bit and come back. But I think those are really good things, and I think that hearing these comments will be helpful as you prepare with your team of consultants about how to address some of these concerns, both staff-wise and resident-wise, and what we've shared up here as a commission. So thank you. All right, that'll conclude item 5 for tonight. And this project, for those in the public who are interested, will be on the May 4th agenda of the City Council of the Whole at 7 p.m. on May 4th. So please double check the website for the agenda to make sure it's on there, but that's what it's scheduled for. All right, item 6, Senior Care Home, 5 North 024, Route 31. This is an application for a special use, approval of a large group home on the property at the address at 5 North 024, Route 31. This is a public hearing for a special use. It is the role of the Plan Commission to conduct these public hearings for application filed with the city. All testimony and evidence, both for and against, shall be given under oath. Our procedure is we'll have staff first, followed by the applicant's presentation, and then we'll take questions from the commission followed by comments and questions from the public. When the Plan Commission feels it has gathered enough evidence to make a recommendation to the City Council of the whole, we will close the public hearing. The Plan Commission will then discuss the evidence gathered in the finding of facts and vote on a recommendation. Before we begin, anyone who wishes to offer testimony, including questions or providing comments, shall be sworn in. And so anybody who's planning, I guess that includes all of you, you need to stand and be sworn in, please, if you're going to provide comments tonight. So please stand. All right. Do you swear the testimony you provide tonight will be the truth? If so, please say, I will. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. When you do speak, when you come up, again, please provide your name and address and state your address for the record. We have an official meeting packet that was out. It included 4 letters or emails that was on the website. We also received 4 additional ones on this topic provided to the Plan Commission before the meeting started. These were from Dan Somanek, let's see, CNN Properties Limited, no name, Abby Wood, and Kelsey Stangebye and Florian Varian. Those people submitted letters not in support of the project, but they are now part of the public record, and we will ask staff to begin. Thank you.
Thank you. This application was submitted by Troy Horbach of Wilby Properties, LLC, who is under contract to purchase the property. They're proposing to construct a senior assisted living home on the subject property. This use qualifies as a large group home under our zoning ordinance, which is a special use in the existing RS1 zoning. So they've applied for special use approval to operate that type of use. Plan improvements include access off Route 31, an 11,000 square foot single-story home, 19 stall parking area on Circle Drive, and detention at the west end. I will mention that this type of application requires submittal of only a site plan, which is what was in your packet. If this special use is approved, then full development plans would be submitted by the developer and reviewed by staff at the time of building permits. So I just want to note that as to the reason why only a site plan was submitted at this point, as that's all required for special use applications. And I'll turn it over to the applicant for their presentation.
Good evening. Thank you. So, as we already discussed, we are seeking, it should be RS1 zone, seeking a special use permit on this lot. I know currently our S1 allows 8-bed residential assisted living. We are looking for 16 beds, so hence the special use. I'll just go over kind of the property. Ellen already kind of mentioned the property at a high level, kind of what we propose to do and why we're doing it, and then we could get into the development overview. So the property on 5 North 024 Route 31 on the north side of St. Charles, it's a 2.5 acre lot. My understanding is it's been undeveloped for over 20 years, mostly overgrown with young trees and brush and a lot of dead trees. Our entrance would be off of Route 31. The lot slopes gently to the west, which is nice because the city has a drainage field there off to the west that continues southward. Here is the site plan. I'll come back to it later as well. But the house will face Route 31. It sits about midway through the property. We have parking that we placed on the north end on purpose to give a buffer from adjacent neighbors. We will have a rounded circular drive in front of the front porch. All drives should be fire compliant based on feedback I got from fire. Hammerhead turn towards the back to reach the back of the property. Detention pond, it's drawn very large in this drawing, but it's just to show that we have plenty of room for wherever it may need to be. So just to get into why we're doing this. So the silver tsunami, it's real, it's coming, unfortunately, and we have the 80-plus-year-old demographic is expected to explode, increase by 55% over the next 10 years. Studies show that 70% of folks will require some form of long-term care. I know there's a recent study done in this area, and it shows a shortage of 300 assisted living beds. There's a lot of assisted living places out there now. They're I call them big box. They're institutional. We have some in the area. I believe you have some even being proposed to be added as well. But what we're doing is a completely different model. If anybody in this room has had to bring their loved one to shop for assisted living, you're going to know what I'm talking about. When you go to these institutional facilities, I kind of think there's two kinds. There's the kind where they're older, they're a little more sterile. They're not pleasant. They have kind of a hospital, institutional vibe to them. And then you have some of the newer ones are quite nice. You walk in and you feel like you're in a resort. I mean, they show you the 3 dining halls and the 8 recreation rooms that nobody's ever in, and they bring you to tour a room, and you go down a hallway, up an elevator, down another hallway, turn and go down another hallway. And while I was impressed when I first walked in, I left going, there's no way my mother would fit in here. She'd be lost. She'd be just a number in this huge place. She wouldn't feel comfortable. She needs a home. That's what actually started me on this process. About a year and a half ago, my mother had a stroke, and we're still dealing with it. In fact, next week we're going to be moving her into an assisted living home in the area. And so when I saw this, and then I went into a home, this exact model that I'm proposing. I found one up north, and I walked in there, and the light bulb went off. This is the right model for assisted living, not those big box centers. It was a family-run operation. It was lively. It felt like a family when you walked in, with all the grandmas and grandpas sitting there, and all the caregivers were super nice and available. So that's what started me down this path about a year ago, and here we are today. And I don't believe in St. Charles, in this area, we have many of these smaller home models, and that's what we're looking to bring to the area. We think the community can need it. So that is what our vision is, to provide really high-end, high-touch care that truly just can't be done at the same level at these big facilities. We should have better one-on-one or better ratios for staff to residents. And we believe that home setting, that's what brings comfort to folks, especially my mother. I stuck a picture of me and my mother in there in the top left. We also think that the higher touch care in a smaller space is just going to lead to more safety. We're going to find fall risks lessened just by having more care and more attention on each resident. These small, calm environments are what's really needed for seniors with memory loss too. They really they can't deal with real big spaces and too much going on. This house will be family-owned and operated. It's me and my family. Obviously, we will hire other staff as well. We need an experienced manager and some care staff, and we're going to have a full-time cook. But that about rounds up what our staff will be. So what we're not again, we're not a facility. We're not a big box. We're not a corporation, not an institution. We're not a nursing home. We're not going to be providing medical services. We are a care house home for 16 grandmas and grandpas. And to be clear, it's not independent living. Independent living is where seniors, they can go into independent living, but they'll have a kitchenette. They can do they could get dressed. They could do everything themselves. They might get meal plans. They still probably drive cars. Our folks need help, will need help probably getting dressed, doing the activity, daily living. So it's, could be eating, could be walking around, it could be bathing. They're not going to be driving. And we are not high density housing. Again, we are residential. This is a house. Illinois defines this specifically as a residential property. It will not be an institution or a medical facility. We're going to be low impact to the neighborhood. Again, it's quiet operations. There aren't going to be any loud parties. There's going to be minimum traffic coming in and out. All the traffic's going to come off of Route 31. We're not going to be going through any neighborhoods. From what we understand is our emergency calls, we're going to average one per every 3 to 4 months. We have, I haven't gotten to yet, but we have a strategic partner and we get a lot of their info from them. They have multiple homes and they work with many partners across the country. I'll get back to them later. So again, this fits low density feel of the surrounding area. The home size and the bedrooms per acre is equivalent to the Redgate community that we border to the south. We've already thought of some buffering for direct neighbors, hence the parking on the north side. The backyard, the angle, the L shape of the building has it so if we ever did anything out on the back patio, you wouldn't even be able to see it from any neighboring homes. It's just, we really want to bring a nice home. It's going to be a large home, but it's architecturally, it's going to be a nice fit to the neighborhood. We really want to make it warm and welcoming, both inside and out. Here's the vision of what we think our home will look like. We want to have high quality materials. We want to do a lot of nice landscaping, really give it some curb appeal, and especially being on Route 31, I think it'd be a really nice visual piece as folks come into the city from the north down 31. Here's the actual building of our partners that we're modeling. This one's in Texas. So as Ellen mentioned, it's about an 11,500 foot house with 16 rooms, each with full bath and individual climate control. We're going to have a full-time cook, real nice kitchen. It's going to be fully ADA compliant. We're going to be compliant with all fire and safety. We're multiple exits, full sprinkler system, 24/7 staff. The parking spaces, it's funny. I thought I'd be requested to have more parking, so I tried to squeeze as much parking in as possible, but we do not need that much parking. So if that's going to be a critique, I welcome it and I'll gladly lower it. I don't think we need any more than 15, to be honest. Here's some shots of our model home and what we intend ours to pretty much resemble. We've got a library, a garden room, a nice open concept feel to it, nice entrance, beautiful kitchen. And the next slide, actually, if I could get it to work, is a short video, that'll walk you through the house so you can get an idea of what we want to build. So it's really nice. You come in the front and you're going to have a wall of windows looking out. And if you remember the site plan, and it's a wooded lot, we should have that all be greenery in the back. Nice big open concept kitchen off to the right. And the way the house is designed in an L, it's designed so we could keep a good line of sight down both hallways. So our grandmas and grandpas can pretty much have eyes on them at all times. This is the library, and all these sitting areas have nice views of the backyard. upscale bedrooms. The baths will be full baths with walk-in showers, roll-in showers. We're going to have a salon for our grandmas and grandpas. That's not going to be staffed. That'll be a third party that comes in and does that once in a while. Our kitchen, I think that's about it with the video. Yeah. Again, coming back to the site plan, I mentioned we had the parking on the north, and that was specifically to avoid any parking close to directly adjacent neighbors. And to the north of our property, about 45 feet is owned by the city, and then I think there's another 40, 50 feet even before the next properties. There's a private road that goes by there. That's the second time I did that. So you can see, and to the west there, that property is owned by the city. That's that drainage area. So that should all be left green. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm a big proponent of having our natural surroundings. I'm going to try to leave as many trees, especially on the north and south and west sides as possible. On our front side, probably need to clear that, but otherwise, I'm all for leaving as many trees as possible. I don't know what else to say about the plan, but we can come back to that. And so lastly, just when approved, the next steps would be coordinating with a civil engineer, which we haven't got yet because I'm trying to see if this gets approved first. And then work with city staff and take care of all the infrastructure questions we have and figure out utilities. I know the city water is a big deal. Figuring out the storm management, and obviously working with IDOT and finalizing what needs to be done regarding the entrance off Route 31. And then working with the architect and getting through the building permit process. So that's all I had, and I welcome any questions, but I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Commissioner?
I've got some questions. How many employees are you going to have?
So there'll be probably 9 employees. So there's 2 caregivers at each shift around the clock. So there'll probably be 6 in a day. There'll be my daughter and son-in-law who are nurses, and they're going to run kind of the operations. We're going to have a full-time cook, and I'd like to get another manager with, some local experience to help.
And then is the building 2 stories or just 1 story?
Just 1 story.
Just 1 story, okay. One thing I would suggest, being an architect, I think scalability. I mean, you are in a residential neighborhood, so scale is very important. Breaking up this large mass, I mean, with, I like that idea of the front porch they had where, I saw you had a couple pictures of the elderly that were sitting out there in the front porch, and maybe in the back where you have some loggias or something that kind of brings down the scale of the building, and especially the large, that one building you showed, I think it was in Texas. Mm-hmm. It looked like the roofs were very large masses, and ways to break that up would be dormers or what have you to kind of just bring it down to a scale that fits the neighboring residential area. I like the idea. I like the plan. I think maybe on the south side, if you set that portion back a little bit more than the 22 feet that you have, and the idea of screening that with landscape and the existing trees, I think is important. So I'd be excited to see what you come back with. So, but
yeah, the tough part of that was when we had to do the hammerhead.
Right.
We had to slide that down a little bit.
I mean, there may be another way to work out that parking, but I think that parking is pretty inefficient. So maybe push some of the parking towards the front. I don't know, but kind of center the building so it's further away from the neighbors, and you get more. I'd be interested to see, the amount of trees that you're going to be saving that can actually buffer the residential areas to the south and to the north. So. But I like the idea, and I think the scale. I mean, architecturally, if you could break up that scale, so the building's not so massive and it doesn't have massive roofs, I think it would fit in nicely with the neighborhood.
Jeff, I just want to, not interrupt you, but I want to wait for you to share those comments. I think that we should just clarify something for ourselves and for the audience. If we voted to close the public hearing and voted for this project, okay, they will not be back. The application process for a special use in this district, okay, doesn't require them to come back with anything, ever, to this body.
Right.
They would come back to staff, but they won't come back to us. And I earlier sent an email to Ellen asking, about these things, because we're asked to assess, these 6 factors. And the applicant provided a response to the 6 evaluation factors that are part of a special use application. And I expressed from my perspective, I can't positively say yes without seeing drawings, tree preservation, engineering, and all those things, because I feel that I don't have enough information to be able to say yes. Now, that's not our standard process based on the way I understand everything is written, but from my perspective, I would want to make them coming back, or we could continue the public hearing if he would be willing to do that. Now, I understand that puts a, if you will, a burden on the applicant compared to what's kind of allowed.
But when you,
I have a hard time.
Are you saying engineering plans or more just concepts with architectural elevations, landscape?
Right, everything. Yeah. They don't have to bring any of that back to here. In fact, they don't even have to do it anytime. It all, if this is approved, all just goes to staff. So.
We're just to speak to the use.
And I can't do that.
Right. Oh, you
personally.
Oh.
Without seeing all of those things, because I'm sure, but you ask these people right here have some of those same comments that Jeff has. So.
And just.
I can't. So that's okay.
To echo Peter's point, when considering a use, you also have to take context to how it relates to the building, how it relates to the site plan, so how it relates to their operations. Just adding to what Peter was kind of saying. That's something that.
And I thought they were coming back, so I thought this was more of just a.
But at the same time, they're adhering to what they're required to adhere to. So I don't think we're in a position to tell them they need to come back because they're adhering to
the rules.
And we are, it's not our job to determine whether those rules work. It's the rules. And so I don't feel like we are in a position to hold someone that's coming with an idea that we may love the idea. We might not get to tell them what trees to plant or exactly what the building looks like, but they are still adhering to what's required of them.
But they're not. They're asking for a special use.
It's a special use application.
No, but they've supplied everything they need to supply to us. No one will
Bruce,
come.
do you have any comments on this?
Well, just for everyone to be aware, the engineering for this will be particularly expensive. And I believe one of the reasons the process is set up the way it is the applicant would come and propose the idea and the use, and you would evaluate it using the use standards that are provided in the ordinance. If the approval is granted, then the developer, the applicant, would go and prepare what are always expensive engineering plans, but because of some utility requirements unique to this site, they'll be very expensive. If you were to say you need the engineering plans now, it just puts the applicant in a position of potentially spending even more money with the possibility that ultimately you would deny the request. And so that's why it's set up. So the use is addressed now and then the engineering is addressed if the use is approved.
And this would be for any applicant, right? It's not just this applicant.
For special uses.
Correct. Correct.
And we have our 6 criteria, our findings of fact. And if we find any one of them in deficit, then we move on. So, and they're all based on use.
Is there a way to do a conditional approval where they have to come back and show us the elevations?
I believe, in general, we can ask for anything we want. Okay? Candidly, we can ask for anything we want because we are a recommending body at the end of the day. And it will go forward to the voting body, and then they can agree with us or make changes, because a special use is a special use and it is a special ask within that zoning district. So at the end of the day, it is our elected officials who make those final decisions. We can have a recommendation, and they could say, sure, but you need to bring these things back and do that process. Then he can, or any applicant, will have the choice to do it or not do it. Just like the applicant before him has an opportunity to decide, is this a good idea or not? So, Ellen, please.
So if the Plan Commission does not feel comfortable closing the public hearing, if the Plan Commission decides you want to see more information on a certain item, maybe within reason, you can choose not to close the public hearing, but rather ask for the applicant to come back with that information, then continue the public hearing before making a recommendation. Your other option Plan Commission has, if there are certain conditions that you want to place upon approval. For example, if Plan Commission decides you're comfortable with this project, if there's enough buffering from adjacent properties, then you can say, we recommend approval with a condition that buffering to meet code standards for landscape buffers are met. And then it would be on staff to make sure that when plans are submitted for permit, we would then make sure that those conditions are met with the plans.
Yeah, that would be number 3. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just, in general, just to follow, we can still ask additional questions. This part of it was more procedurally. What are our options? What can we talk about? And I realized you were, from your comments, you thought they were coming back.
I thought they were coming back, right.
And, maybe yes, maybe no, depending on how things work out. But I have just a question related to the actual operational use based on the license that you get from the state. So can you explain to me what that allows and what that doesn't allow with respect to the residents or the people that you have in your care?
So the license through IDPH is for a shared housing establishment, which allows up to 16 residents.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so what are the criteria that you have to meet with respect to that? Like, is there age? Is there behavioral things? Is there, what are the requirements, if any?
So I do not know all of the requirements around the licensing yet, but I know there's no requirements as far as age or ability. It's just that we have to maintain a certain level of care, ADA compliance for the home. It gets reviewed at least annually by ADPH.
So do you interview, are you interviewing applicants then, or how does that process work? If someone wanted to, and do you take couples, or is it singular only?
It's singular rooms. So we take a couple, but they would each have their own room. Or they could stay in one room, but we can't can't place another resident in the other room. We can only have a maximum of 16.
And so there's 16 rooms?
Yes.
Okay, got it. And it's an application process? If someone wanted to bring their parent to you, is that an application process? How if I wanted to bring my mom to be considered to live there, how does that process work?
Interview style, assess their needs. They could be to a level maybe where we can't take them. If their mental cognitiveness is very low, where they're being a threat to others, that's where we wouldn't be able to take them.
Okay.
So assisted living, when I was working through this with my dad, when he was moved from independent living to assisted living to skilled care, there's a daily needs assessment that's done by the people, the licensed staff who are there, and it's a scorecard. At the end of the day, that's what it is. Lower the score, more help you need. So how does that work for you? I'm familiar with a larger setting, okay, and how they do that and how they assess those things. But how would that work for you if you're not really governed by exactly the same rules? Would somebody be able to be there that, has noteworthy cognitive issues or behavioral issues? Would somebody be able to be there who you know, because once you get a group home, right, there's a definition. I mean, and you may have your initial kind of guidelines that you use, but are you governed by anything else that says you can't have people who are behavioral issues or who have substance issues or different things like that? Because I think that, you know, while it may be an operational issue to you, there might be people in this audience who feel differently about that. And so I think as we're trying to assess how does that impact those 6 findings of fact, okay, which you've stated everything is fine and that you don't feel there'll be any issues, I think that these specific questions about how you get people and how they maintain and how that will maybe change over time is an important thing, because that goes to exactly how could that potentially disturb people who live nearby and the orderly progress of all the things we're supposed to be assessing as a use. So unless you can answer those things, it's hard for me personally, I can't speak for everybody, it's hard for me to go, sure.
So one thing I should have mentioned when you asked kind of requirements, we will be a kind of a lockdown facility. There will be locks on the doors. There'll be some form of gated backyard if we allow them out the back, because there will be some residents there with memory issues. So we are held to a higher standard with all those ADA compliance levels for memory care homes. So they won't be able to wander around without us knowing. There's going to be a lot of technology there, so we know what they're doing. You know, they're getting out of bed, where the GPS locators. There's a lot to it, and frankly, I haven't even gotten there yet. I mean, I'm so far behind. You know, at the building and design phase. Operations is quite a ways down the road, but this is what our. Okay.
What is your what is your timeline? Should this all get moving?
Well, I expect the building permit process probably to take 6 months. We're going to be working with the SBA loan. Probably that'll be hand in hand with that. The build itself, I'd probably expect 18 months at least.
And are you simultaneously then, while the build is happening, securing all the other and addressing all of the other elements, like the questions that we're asking with regards to how someone is there, and think the process you're going to have them there, and then what if someone you bring in, but over the course of 4 years they are cognitively getting worse and they get to a point to where you can't manage them. What is that like? So with that process,
yeah, all your specific answer, I could probably get all those answered very quickly through our partner, because they run this on a day-to-day for years. Okay. They're the ones who are going to be escorting us.
So they're the ones running it for you?
No, we are. So there are mentorship. They're providing building and operations blueprints as we move forward through the process.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There are group homes already in St. Charles, not this size, and those people aren't locked down. Right. You know, that they have one in my neighborhood.
Assisted living.
No, it's not assisted living. They're homes. They're single-family homes where there's maybe 4 to 6, maybe, because they're small ones.
They're called residential assisted living.
Okay. Well, I'm looking here, and it's not supposed to be called assisted living. I'm looking at the state definition of stuff.
Shared housing.
Shared housing is not assisted living according to the definition in our packet. So when you say lockdown, because one of the big questions I had was, you know, for effect on general welfare, establishment, maintenance, or operation of special use will not be detrimental to or endanger. And so I was wondering just the location of it, but you're telling me they're locked down. It doesn't seem like that's the kind of person who would be in here that would be locked down. It'd be somebody who'd want to go for a walk, or even I thought you had this many parking spaces because in my the group home, I think there's even one guy who drives. You know what I mean? But they don't have any living care, right? You don't have any living care.
We have 24/7, but nobody
24, but no live-in.
There.
Right, 24 care, but no live-in. Because of the location on 31, I was worried that, you know, there's no place for them to walk, right? Just in the circle driveway, really. There's no place to go out and take a walk. and say they want to, in my neighborhood, they want to go, you know, walk to the park and watch, you know, the great-grandchildren play, I think is the occasion, you know, and they can take that walk, take some, you know, their little walkers or whatever. But here, there's no place for that.
They wouldn't be walking alone. One of our care work folks would be walking.
No, I don't even see where they could walk with a care worker. I mean,
they're
31's right there.
They're truly not going to be doing a lot of walking. If we walked around the front and probably walked around the backyard is probably the most that they can do.
So this is a higher level of care
Yes.
facility. So this is for people that are either like wheelchair bound or have difficulty walking or
A lot of our folks will be on hospice.
hospice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but it's not considered an end of life care facility. It's
because there's no
You can, I mean, there's situations where it'll be end of life care.
Okay.
No. Can I ask a question?
I mean, they could age in place.
It's called hospice. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm just looking at the state definition. There's no hospital, there's no medical care, there's nothing like that. It's supposed to be in a group home. And assistant living facility is another category under the zoning ordinance. So that's why I guess I'm asking, are you a group home or are you assisted living? Because it's two different things, correct, Ellen? I mean, yeah. There's a separate use category under the zoning ordinance.
Yeah, so our zoning ordinance has an assisted living use category, which references the state act for the definition, and that definition in the state act of assisted living includes that each room has kitchen and bath facilities. And in this case, because there's not the kitchen facilities, it would be considered, from my understanding, a shared housing. Under the state definition, a shared housing establishment, and that would therefore be considered a group home under our zoning. Even though the services that this group home would be providing would be assisted living type services, it would not be considered assisted living from a zoning perspective because of the way the rooms are constructed and the building is operating.
Okay, so it's just a structure definition. It isn't really a functional definition.
Yeah, it's like it's loosely related to the state definition for licensing, but there's a little bit of interpretation there.
Okay.
Other questions?
I just wanted to ask staff, if they sell the building in 5 years and this special use is granted, what happens to that permission after they sell it?
The special use is limited to this business. So if the property were to sell and another entity wanted to operate a group home, they would have to come back through for a different special use approval. Or it could revert to permitted use in the zoning district, which would just be a single family home. They could use it as a single family home or come back and request a new special use.
So along that question, Ellen, from Corey, is so it becomes like if he sold the operational side of the business to somebody else to come in and operate the exact same thing he's doing right now, is that a trigger to come back to us?
Well, typically it would be related to the owner of the business. If there was a change in ownership, I mean, if we're concerned about that sort of thing, anything can be written into the ordinance approval to address future changes and when it would be triggered that they'd need to come back.
Okay. And the only reason I'm kind of asking some of these things is that in different ordinances outside of this project and outside of this applicant, in different ordinances in different communities, group homes, both small and large, have unique definitions. And so it's hard, and so in those definitions, they allow things for people with behavioral issues, that can be halfway homes, still defined as a group home. You can have things with people with special needs, And special needs is a really broad definition. And so you can have people with special needs who have a lot of emotional and environmental issues, and you can have people who have very small ones and very minor ones. And to me, all of those things go into how does this use, and in this case, a applicant, which could be somebody else later, okay, how does that all roll into what they are allowed and not allowed to do under not only our approval, but under any of their state regulations? And because I think those are the things that people, neighbors, become concerned about, okay, is, well, it's maybe one thing today, but if it's sold to somebody else, it's maybe something else, but he got an approval for a definition. And so what is the full breadth of what that allows? I mean, in St. Charles, I think Rita, who used to work for the city, did an admirable job of getting small group homes for people with special needs as an allowable use. And as a person with a son who has special needs, that's extremely, that's a huge deal compared to other communities where you can't even get a special use for anything related to homes without a whole application process. And so that's a big deal. And so I'm not exactly sure what everybody's going to ask about or talk about, but I think those are part of it. And it has nothing to do with you or your intention. It's what does the approval at the end of the day allow, not only here, but at the state level, and how and can it be transferred, if it can, to somebody else, because you may not want to own the business forever or for the next 20, 40 years. And so how does that work? Yes.
And just to add, if the Plan Commission desires to set parameters around what would be allowed at this business, that can be incorporated into a special use as well, such as all residents must be seniors as defined by 50 and over, kind of the level of care that they're authorized to give in general terms. So that kind of thing can be written specific to this business.
Yeah.
And also, prohibitions against like drug rehab facility, all of those things that you don't want to occur here can be written into the ordinance, so it's super clear of what's allowed.
Okay. Okay. No, it's all very helpful. And any other comments from our commission before we open up public? People came out tonight, and I want to be fair to them.
Would you mind just going through what you perceive as some of the intended services beyond just cooking and cleaning? Give me the list of what you think the services you'd be hoping to offer to residents.
So again, we're just a care home, so what we would coordinate with other third parties for all the medical assistance that they might need, doctors, podiatrists. We can either drive them there, or they could come in-house. The salon staff wouldn't be our staff; that'd be somebody who just comes on and does that for them. So it's just the helping them wake up, get dressed, help them to the open living area, have breakfast, care for them during the day, have some activities, all the feeding, making sure that they're bathed and they get back to bed at night. Okay, so it's that touch, it's that intimate care, not medical grade. They help with medication. We're giving them reminders. Our folks won't be giving medications though.
Anybody have a question?
I can probably, if I could take stuff away and come back to you too, because like I said, I'm not at that level with the operations yet. I'll admit that, but I know my partner does and can help me through any questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Just my question was, it seems to me that if they're going to be locked down, that they have a diminished mental capacity or something, because I can't imagine that they would be content with just roaming the halls and watching TV, or that their families would be pleased with that.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm saying this location specifically, they can't go anywhere. They can't even go with anybody and go for a walk. There's just no place to go. Let's go walk, get a cup of coffee. Let's go walk, get a donut. They can't do that in this location, correct? And even if they wanted to, they could. They'd have to get in the car and go somewhere.
I mean, our folks aren't, they're not going for mile walks.
No, not
They'd be
even a
walking,
mile.
they'd be doing
Walk.
up and down our halls, outside with the caregiver, with assistance. We'd probably, if there are some that like to go for more walks, we'll probably end up, it's very personalized, so if we have somebody like that, maybe we find time for a caregiver to take them somewhere where they can go on a mile walk if they can handle that.
Are they going to have cars?
No.
No cars?
But
They will not be driving.
They will have visitors?
They'll have visitors.
Yeah. 15 spots.
So, yes.
Troy, so you're going to manage this?
I'm going to be like an operational manager, but I'm at the care level and that operations, once the building's up and going, that's where my daughter, my son-in-law, they're the nurses, they're going to be more operating with the care folks. I'm more of a building manager.
And this
through the process.
would be certified through IDPH?
Yes. Yeah, we're going to be licensed.
Okay.
And that whole licensure process, that's a big ball of worms. So if you have questions about that, I'm going to probably have to get back to you on some of those, but I'll try.
No, we'd be here all night to start to go into that. Steph, really, Ellen or Bruce. So you brought up the utility question, which, my understanding is water isn't on property. It has to be brought in from a home on Abbeywood?
The first part is true. Water is not currently available to the site. Part of the reason the site has been undeveloped for as long as it has been is that a water main extension is needed. Cost of extending a water main is a lot, which means and we get a lot of calls about this site. In the last year, we've probably had 6 serious people interested in developing the site. Any development of the site requires higher density. Some of you may recall, I think there was a concept plan about 2 years ago for 16
yes.
townhomes.
Yes.
That's the kind of density that typically would be required to cover the costs for extending the utilities. It wouldn't come from a house. It would come from a city water main to the south and be extended up along a property the city owns on the west side of Highway 31.
And does sewer run along 31 also?
No, so sanitary is on the west side in basically the valley that's the drainage way. Sanitary sewer connection would not be very difficult or expensive. It's mostly the water main extension that adds a substantial cost.
And then moving away from utility a little bit, but on drainage, one of the issues, and I've walked that property multiple times, it's wet, especially when you go to the west. It flows into, I don't know, there's a creek or something back there, which, the city's done improvements, et cetera. Depending on the topography, is this going to be further magnified, that issue, or no?
So the short answer is no. The city follows Kane County's stormwater ordinance, which, in a very oversimplified explanation, stormwater runoff after development has to be equal to or less than, in some instances, current runoff. So there won't be more water going into that drainage way. It'll either be an equal amount or potentially less.
And less because they're going to add a detention pond?
Well, the detention pond is what will guarantee that no additional water runs off. Sometimes just the site grading and the various improvements and the addition of a detention pond actually results in less water running off of a site.
Okay.
Usually, the release rate in a detention pond for most development is less than the natural flow off the property in its undeveloped condition, which is why you see a lot of farm projects where people are concerned about drainage. It actually improves because you have to detain the water and it doesn't just flow off without any detention at all. We come back.
Yeah,
I think what we'd like to do is people have come out and appreciate all of your time. If you could give way, and we'll allow people from the public to come up and speak. Again, if you could come up and State your name and provide your address, please, for our court reporter. Thank you.
My name is Kevin Mendenhall. I live at 3102 Pendleton. So basically, I would open my door and I'd see this building. Yes, there was a hearing several years ago. I will try to stick to my notes. Now I have more questions since his presentation. First of all, I'm opposed to it. The last time we were here, everybody talked about the wildlife, the deers, foxes, owls, everything. Water is an issue, extreme issue. I heard some promising comments over here, but I think for a lot of us, that's one of our biggest concerns. I just so happened, it rained recently before I got this letter, and I drove up that lane. Those backyards are flooded to the max. Water's rushing under the road that's 3 feet higher. I'm not convinced at this point any pond's going to help water flow behind my neighbors' yards. It was also discussed at the last meeting, I believe, a assisted senior living in Fox Chase. I believe that was Whittington Course, which I lived in 9 years ago. I can tell you Mother Nature has no sympathy. We had a microburst. Within 5-10 minutes, all my window wells filled up, burst out the glass, mud and water everywhere. I think this is mostly due to the properties too close to each other. There's 120 units in there on Whittington Course. There's no place to put the snow. There's nowhere for the water to go. The street would flood. Anyway, I'm opposed to this. I had the same questions you did. If they build this building, I haven't heard anything that makes this project financially viable either. If you need to help people get, I've also put my father into Bickford over on Campton Hills, sold his house on April 8th. His first choice is he thinks he's 85, he still thinks he's 65 and should be able to live on his own. But his cognitive evaluations say otherwise. I'm not the doctor. I see the behavior though, and I know my sister and I had to do something. If he had the money, we could have gotten somebody into his home and he could have been happy living there. So I just don't know how this is financially viable either. So what happens to the vacant property someday? That's another question for me. I have a lot more questions, but I know other people want to speak, and I got to get home to my kids. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nghi Huynh. I live in 206 Abbeywood. My question is, I was here in the last 2 years. The same as everyone, most of the face in here, that I met them last 2 years. We not agree for the townhome to build out right next to our property. But I don't know why right now the city consider this is more like commercial, to build right at our property. And I don't think, this is, so my question is why we change, does it really make it appropriate to change? I mean, like 2 years ago, we built residential. We totally don't want that to happen. Now we have like commercial build right next to our property. And then another question is, if this business fail, and then, it become like high intensity or any other thing gonna come to our neighbor, does the city have any sort of guarantee, for our resident around the neighbor? Because, when we buy this property, we agree with our neighbor. We're not allowed to park commercial car, build fence, or shed around our neighborhood. And now something, like commercial live right next to us. I don't think I can stand with this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ryan Root, RROT. I live at 5 North 070 Route 31. When you're looking at this, kind of breaks down our survey here. If you take the northwest corner of this property, I basically live off that back edge. Just kind of, I guess, a little bit about me, and thank you all for opening this up to a public hearing. I think this is a kind of great opportunity for everyone to kind of speak their piece on this. I'm fortunate enough in St. Charles to own 2 homes. The last over 10 years, I've owned a home north of 31, south of North, down 31, just across the street from Mount St. Mary's Park. I've lived in the high-density area over the last 10 years. December 30th, my wife and I, we wanted to purchase something that's low density. So that's where that kind of led us to this property. All right, that was the exact reason we made this move. Tremendous renovation. I'm covered in plumber's glue right now, trying to connect a frickin' dryer, for crying out loud. So it was a dream home of ours. The low density aspect of this neighborhood is what drew us to it. Everyone in that area, north, south, east, west of this, paid a premium to be in that space. They paid for that peace, that tranquility, the nature, the observing of animals, etc. It was effectively, for a lot of those folks, their dream home. I guess facts don't care about feelings, so I guess I'll stick with some of the facts. Any of the properties that are remotely close to this development will be negatively impacting their property values. They paid a premium to be there. It compromises the integrity of the neighborhood. It directly conflicts with the zoning. Every home in that area is under the pretense and expectation of low-density housing. And listening to this presentation, we're talking 9 full-time employees, 16 residents, 25 people on a 1.25-acre development on a 2.5-acre piece. I don't know if anyone in the room would consider that low density. So, not to mention, and just kind of some more questions that came up along the way, it sounds like we might be circumventing or working around assisted living standards and laws, kind of blurring the line. 16 parking spaces, hospice, health aid, healthcare workers working on this property. I'm not sure low density that would qualify for any of that. Not to mention, if this doesn't work, we're going to have an 11,000 square foot piece of real estate that's going to be zoned residential when it's all said and done. I don't know if anyone's going to go pick up 11,000 square foot piece of commercial space and turn it into a home. So, whole slew of issues just based on what we've learned this afternoon. And my wife and I, we saw or heard about, with us just closing back in December, about this, the townhomes and how that process was shut down. And I guess we felt or had faith in St. Charles and keeping that space residential. And I guess I want to be clear that everyone is under the expectation that that is low density residential. If that was to be purchased by someone and they build a home, that's what we all signed up for. That's what we all knew and expected of that property. This is not it. And then kind of component 2, kind of is a 2 things, 2 component idea for me. This is a business venture / profit center first. It is a passion project second. People don't go into business to lose money or go bankrupt. They go into be profitable. Anyone that's ran a business or purchased real estate or purchased real estate, they understand the acquisition cost of property dramatically influences the capitalization rates and the ROI on their exact business. And I would speculate that it's far more cost effective for Troy to purchase this property, ask for a special use permit, that's different than what it's originally being zoned for. So as opposed to going to where there is zoning for commercial real estate where this exact type of project is already set up for. So we understand that there's a need for this type of housing. We certainly understand that. We're empathetic of it. We just ask that it's done where the zoning allows, where all the parties involved, all of the neighbors involved know the zoning ahead of time before investing in that real estate so they know what they're getting themselves into. We ask that you consider the impact that this would have on all the neighbors of that area in addition to the surrounding wildlife. And, long-term residents, I've been here just over 10 years. I'm a transplant from Michigan. We love this town. This is just a much nicer version of where we grew up, and we sincerely love it here. That said, many of these residents, they've poured hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, into those neighboring properties, and this will have negative impact on all of it. So we just ask that you understand that and, do what you can to protect that because we're all basically counting on you. They've made these investments under the expectation of the zoning that they purchased those properties under, and we'd like to keep it that way. So thank you all for your time, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vivian Van Rokel. I live at 205 Abbeywood Drive. That's the Redgate subdivision. My husband Bud and I built the first house in the Redgate subdivision in 1988. And at that time, Sebastian Cart lived on that property in question in his house. So it was zoned at that time low-density, single-family, residential. And, of course, that's the expectation that we have had all this time, that it should remain. So my objection to this particular project is twofold. One, it's a business. It's not a single-family home. It's not a residence per se. It's a business. You have an absentee investor landlord who's hiring a manager to collect his rent and service the property. It's a multi-bedsit unit residential rental building. And the renters are unrelated, so it has no bearing whatsoever on the current zoning that we have. Now, it's not even, I learned tonight, this is not even going through the normal pattern that you would do to have a development. This is a special use. And I didn't know that until tonight, that you guys could decide just now, and that would be the end of it. If you guys decided yes, that would be the end of it. We would have no other say. So I'm definitely not in favor of having a business in this vicinity, especially this type of business. And they could walk away. This landlord, this absentee investor landlord, could walk away at any time. And who's to say that he's going to get the kind of rents that he wants from the clients that he expects to get? He may not. And the whole thing may go kapooey. So I just don't think it's good to have a business special use applied to this particular area. If you want to put something like this in a commercial area that they can go get their cup of coffee and go take a walk in the adjacent park, I mean, that's fine. And if you want to have an assisted living facility, that's fine. I mean, I'm a retired physician. I'm all for, people having the most appropriate place to have their health serviced. I don't think it's this particular project. So my last statement is a quote from Scarlett O'Hara. It's just a mule and horse harness, and it doesn't fool anybody.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Not this one, the other one that had your, I think it was like one of your first ones that you had.
Oh, that one?
Yeah, that one right there. Hi, Michael Anderson, 35 West 979 Fieldcrest. I actually, if you look north of the square and you see the detention area and the stream that goes up north towards Fieldcrest, my property is just to the west of that. So, and the reason why I brought this up, and I'm kind of indifferent on this here, I know a lot of people get passionate on here, but what I'm concerned about is actually the physical part of it. And Mr. Fitzgerald, you brought up, the comment about the stormwater. We built this house in 1986, and this was probably before any of you guys were around here at that point. They were farm fields out there. And until they built St. Charles North, there was a lot of issues with stormwater on that part. And they did, when they built the St. Charles North High School, they did make a lot of improvements, especially coming from St. Charles North down past Fieldcrest. I mean, they actually closed up the culvert that was there, and they brought it all the way there, all the way to going through the property that is the petitioner is looking for. But as been mentioned, it eventually will go south all the way to Pearson Creek. I'm just saying is that I implore you as the Planning Commission is please be aware there is flooding issues that are there. And I know there's civil engineers, and I don't know who the civil engineer that they will use or who your engineers that you've used for the city. But, I mean, even like right now with the rain that we've had, there's issues. And I know that Troy hasn't designed with a civil engineer where the pond is going to be, but if it backs up, I mean, it's going to back up into those properties that you can see that's north of them. So, as Planning Commission and zoning, and that, I petition you that you just be sure that the stormwater is taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment?
My name is Ken Shaning, 3103 Pendleton Court. Can you pull up the other slide of the property itself? Thank you. First of all, I'm against this. But on the way here, my daughter said this would be great because now I could just wheel you across the backyard and get you in there quickly. But I don't know if I can blow this up here a little bit, but I'm located right down here at the bottom of the property. And we've been here for 28 years, and I've been in front of the Planning Commission numerous times over the same issue. And some of the things we've had issues with over the years is definitely the flooding. There's a lot of flooding goes on there. And in order to make this a viable property, everyone that's come before the commission has said, well, we're going to have to raise the property up 5 to 8 to 10 feet. And so where's that water going to go? It has to go somewhere. That was one issue. The guy that lived there before crashed. Some of the older neighbors know of him, boarded my property. He stored a lot of chemicals and oil containers and different things over there. And one of the issues we've had numerous builders try to do this, is no one wanted to do an EPA study because they're worried that what's going to happen is when they start moving dirt over there, it's going to contaminate the well, the city well, the backup well that is right below the retention area here. And in fact, the city was just out there last summer drilling down again to make sure that it's still viable. So those are some of the issues that they've had, but listening to this today, I'm a little concerned about some of the other things that I'm hearing too. It doesn't appear that we have a real clear plan on what this is going to be used for. When we say that it's going to be a memory care facility, it's going to be this type of facility, but we're not going to have any nursing there. We're going to bring them in from the outside. How are we going to take care of these people? I'm sorry, Troy, by the way, that your mother had a stroke. Mine had one 2 years ago, and she's paralyzed in her left side and wheelchair bound. And it's a terrible thing. It really is. And now she's starting to lose some of her other faculties. But when you say that you are going to be selective on how do you choose them? You put them in there, and yeah, they may have a stroke and they're in a wheelchair, but then all of a sudden they start losing their other faculties. There's a neighbor next to my mother right now that screams nonstop. And how do you stop all this stuff? You can't just kick them out. I mean, what are you going to do with these people? Anywhere in the country right now, it takes months, if not years, to get into a skilled care facility like that. So I think there's a lot of issues from what I've heard tonight. You know, obviously, there's a lot of things. I made some notes here, and I can't even type my own notes, but, you know, just a lot of things. The other thing they had last time we were here was the traffic study up and down 31. What was going to happen there. The trees, I love the fact that everyone on the commission is worried about the trees. We have a lot of junk trees there. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of oak or hardwoods that we would love to have. But there's just, it's a nice wildlife area. And I've made this recommendation to a couple of former mayors. Why doesn't the city of St. Charles buy it and just turn it into a park or a wildlife area, or a Kane County buy it? We seem to go through this every couple of years where someone comes in and wants to buy the property and build. I know we were talking about before, put 21 townhomes on there. They're going to be 45 feet tall. It just doesn't fit the neighborhood. As Vivian said, you know, it's just it was zoned residential. It was residential when I moved in there, or when we moved in there. Sorry, honey. But it just doesn't fit the area, and so we're opposed to it. But thank you for all. And by the way, you guys do a nice job of asking questions. I watched the Pulte presentation before, and you guys did a great job of asking all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kat McWard. I am at 5N117 Fox Bluff Court, which is actually, it would be facing the 19 or 15 parking spots. We're not sure how many it is now, so I won't talk about the water problems because there's a ton of water problems in our backyard. Right now, with all the rain that we've had back there, it gets to the point where we can't even mow like half our grass back there. It's pretty wet. So that area has had a lot of water retention issues. I know our neighbors across in Redgate, across the White Bridge Lane Road have complained about water issues to the water department. I know they've been out to assess the situation. This is not something that's new. This is something that's been around since we've been there for the past 8 years. So what I kind of wanted to go in on is I had some notes written down coming in here, and then I wrote a couple more because I didn't realize that this was like a concept that was created a year and a half ago for Troy. I thought that this was like an established business that was coming in that knew exactly what the operations were going to look like. And I thought we were going to be speaking to that or voicing our concerns to that. So it's a little kind of unnerving when I, hear Troy talking about, I heard him say probably, I don't know the requirements, don't know specifically what type of facility it is. There's confusion, lack of clarity of details, unable to articulate services, and there's also a mentor being mentioned, but the mentor is not really involved. Otherwise, if there's no answers to these questions, I would just presume that the mentor would be here in some capacity to help him get through this preliminary process, which is probably a pretty important part of this application since it's like the first step, right? So that's a little concerning, is like, okay, we have support, but do we have enough support to actually like bring this, to actually happen? And then just a couple of points that I wanted to make that I had written down before is, I'm in real estate. I always look at best and worst case scenario, and this is how I present it to my clients. Like, let's look at what can happen that could be best and worst. And looking at this, personally, we have a lot of elderly neighbors, okay? And one of them is actually kind of declining. So what that looks like for us is every couple of weeks there's an ambulance and there's some emergency vehicles. We also had another neighbor that was declining, a senior that was declining, and there was emergency vehicles at least once a week. And towards the end, it was a couple of times a week, 3 times a week, that they were going back and forth until it was done. So for me, if we're having 16 elderly people, patients, I don't know what they are because we're unclear on that, but seniors, okay? If we have 16 people, to me, it's like, okay, let's say this person, best case scenario, there is 1 emergency a month, but let's say it's all of them at least once a week. Now we're talking about deploying 16 emergency vehicles to that area. I'm sitting in my backyard staring at the parking lot and just looking at lights, several times a week. That's kind of crazy. So that's just, to me, worst case scenario, and I have to consider that as a homeowner there just because that could happen. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I don't really want to find out. I already see way too many of them out there. Troy alluded in his letter that he sent to the homeowners that these people wouldn't be driving, but there's 16 of them. Let's presume that the 16 of them have at least 2 kids, and that's on the low end. Some of them have more, 3 or 4 kids. If they come visit you separately, now that's 16 times 2 times 3. Now all these people are coming to visit you, right? I've talked about the water retention issues. So pretty much, in conclusion, I just feel like this is just too much, and I feel like there isn't a real plan even answering how this facility is going to be run. I feel like it's just kind of like an experiment, it kind of feels like, in my backyard. So I don't really have an issue with Troy's dream. I think it's a wonderful idea, especially something that was, inspired by his own personal experience. I just have an issue with his dream being a 15-space parking lot in my backyard.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So at this point, we're going to come back to this side of the table and ask people either have more questions.
Can you speak on the procedural part of it? If we approve, we're not approving the project. We're just
Approving a special use.
Well, we're making a recommendation.
Plus we're making a recommendation.
Right. Yeah, just to clear that up.
Yeah.
It doesn't end with us.
Well, no, I mean, the next step is it goes to city council.
I just wanted to clear that up.
Yeah. From here, it goes to city council. If we move this project out of our process, I don't know when it goes on to the city council agenda. So, but it would move to the city council agenda, okay? And the whole potentially set of topics would be discussed again.
Okay.
I don't know. Please.
Okay, I'll start because it was always important to me to stick to the rules. And we're charged with addressing 6 findings of fact. And it was in our packet, those 6. And our applicant addressed the 6. And it's up to us if we interpret or whatever, because that's what we're to do. I have 3 of those 6 that I have a problem with. And all we have to do is say 1, and it doesn't move on. So I have 3. Public convenience at the proposed location. I think it's a great concept. I think it's a great idea. I just don't think it belongs there. I think that a group home, unlike a lot of what we heard from, I think a group home belongs in a neighborhood. A group home is a home. And this is kind of the lockdown situation bothers me about it. And that goes into public safety in question. Now, it has to be locked down, otherwise the residents wouldn't be safe, is kind of what I understood the applicant saying. So without the lockdown, the safety of the residents is in question. And I really, as I am delving in here, trying to figure out the definition by state and by our city, I appreciate Ellen clarifying for me that I just don't see this serving a public convenience at this proposed location. Do think it would be someplace else, just not here. Also, to Peter's point, in that I don't think, number two is sufficient infrastructure. Right now, there's no sufficient infrastructure. And we kind of heard it rattled off what it's going to take. It's going to take sewer, it's going to take water, it's going to take, the city requires sidewalks along 31.
Bike path.
Yeah, bike path, whatever, the pedestrian bike along 31. That is a lot. Right now, it doesn't have any of it. So whether or not it's been promised, I don't know. We can't speak to that because you said we don't have a plan. But I don't see that either. So with that said, I don't think we should be granting it a special use.
Just to echo some of that, I think there may need be some clarifications on, I guess from the state level in our definitions. My understanding is a group home is supposed to be in a residential setting. It's supposed to blend, be seamless, unknown, be part of that neighborhood. This feels more institutional, more facility. When you look at the state's definition, the key component that the difference in licensing is, for assisted living versus a shared living, establishment, it's the cooking facilities. That difference is the addition of a sink and a microwave, and and maybe a mini fridge. That's truly the difference. Both licenses are over 55 plus. From the majority, both are providing services. The key difference is that in-room food, concept. I would need more information, verification on those licenses, and then I guess from an operational standpoint to be able to opine on this.
Anyone else?
So I was actually kind of quite surprised that I thought this was just more of a conceptual, just a site plan review, and then I find out that, this is kind of where it's, this is the last look at this. So, which is disappointing. Being an architect, I'd like to, see more details, and I think there are a lot of, details that are missing. And, no offense to Dan's plans, but, it seems like this site plan was kind of just thrown together to take it to the next level, to take it to the next level. And I'm disappointed. I wish, there were elevations. And I know that it does cost money, but, there are a lot of issues with the property as far as retainage, engineering. I think things need to be resolved. And, I think there are a lot of unanswered questions regarding the business and what have you. And I do appreciate, being an architect, I always tell my clients, talk to the neighbors and, find out what their thoughts are so you can incorporate that into your ideas and into the design. And I appreciate the neighbors coming out because it is important to hear from you and your concerns. And, I think there are a lot of concerns that need to be addressed. So I agree with my fellow commissioners, and I think, at this point, I can't, agree with it. So.
So I'm going to say I disagree slightly with some of my colleagues in the sense that, particularly when it comes to the infrastructure, there isn't sufficient infrastructure there for anyone at this point. There has to be work done to this site, no matter if it's a single house, they still have to get water. So the sufficient infrastructure, no one's going to meet that at this moment. I think where the difference is because the PUDs, we're limited, and I unfortunately feel bad because the set of rules around this special use is really what's hurting this applicant, because they're meeting the requirement, but it's to your detriment because we don't have. I agree. I was hoping there was a drawing and some scale just to give a vision, and I think that would have helped the neighbors to actually see what this looked like. And it just wasn't required. So I think it's an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in, because I actually think this use could be great and is needed, and I think there's a dire need for what you're saying. It's not up to us to make sure that you have the licenses. That's going to go on to city council, and that all has to get approved. We're dealing with the zoning and the ordinance and the PUD. You know,
No, it's not a PUD.
I'm sorry, it's not a PUD. Sorry, special use. Sorry, special use. So that's out of our jurisdiction, really. I mean, that's not what we're supposed to be debating. So I do think that the idea and the concept could work. I understand why you're talking about a lockdown. I think people are thinking these are elderly people that are going to go out and take strolls. I understand that's not what this is. But unfortunately, I just think it's probably not going to pass because the majority of the colleagues, and I understand, there's this catch-all of a lack of information at this point that we can't wrap our head around. So
The commission does have the right to continue this as well if the applicant wants to and believes they can provide additional information. We don't have to make a recommendation to not.
That's correct. And if you were able to have your mentor be here and you were able to answer some of the questions that I think some of the staff has, and if we were able to, not that we want to tell you to go spend millions of dollars to be able to come and get this approved, but if there was anything you are able to do that could alleviate your neighbors' concerns, answer a lot of questions, to your point, it could continue.
But if we do continue, we need to be clear on why we're continuing and what
Correct.
of information we want.
Correct.
I just wanted to pose that.
No, it's good. It's a good point.
Anybody else?
Great concept, wrong location.
Okay. All right. So Troy, I guess the question is, we have an open public hearing currently, and there's been a lot of questions, not only by your neighbors, but by us, related to your operations and the licensing and a number of things that at certain levels play into us evaluating these 6 perfunctory questions. And so would you be interested in coming back to address some of that, maybe help with some of these questions, additional document drawings, if you will, site-related architecture, that kind of thing? Would it be of your interest to have this hearing continued rather than us taking an action tonight?
Yeah, can I, so will I get a response with all of the various questions that you would like to see and any particular drawings or building layout?
Mm-hmm.
I am hesitant, as we mentioned, to engage with civil engineering and create these, design plans, but I know I can get you building layouts based on the model building that my partner has. I can get you a lot more information. I just, if I can get it all collected and sent to me.
Yeah. Will that be, before he goes through a lot of work, will that help you and maybe Jeff determine, and Colleen, findings of fact? Because that's just what we're before here. We're just here, findings of fact for the use.
Understood.
Not what the, building looks like.
I think it does. Architect, and it can be preliminary architecture. It doesn't have to be, full detail, full scale, but a little bit more preliminary architecture potentially does pose some assistance to this, because you're talking about the use and the operations. So understanding how that and, a conceptual floor plan may work and how the site
Well, he gave us that. He gave us that in the little video.
Well,
yeah,
but the thing is, that was based off of a facility, not in the state of Illinois.
That's what he's going to use.
But
Naperville, didn't you say it was in Naperville?
Texas.
Texas.
Yeah,
Well,
Texas.
his other partner
So,
in Naperville.
I think some conceptual architecture, because you can show a photo, but, one story with vaulted, or high-pitched roof is significantly taller. Just things like that, just kind of a little bit more details. But from an operational standpoint, I would need to see more information on how that, operationally, what's the staffing truly going to look like? What's the type of services that truly are going to be offered? As it's proposed now, it's a lot of
we hope to bring someone in, would bring someone in, we would partner with someone else. Just a little more detail.
And what will that clarify for you of the 6?
It would help tell me how all the parking spaces would be used on the site, and it would tell me, okay, if they're doing this many services or this type of programming, you're expecting this much visitors, you're this much trash pickup, other types of things associated with these.
Well, it would also answer the general welfare question. It should answer all the questions about the safety, the comfort, how this facility and in the way it's being run is going to impact the neighborhood.
Yeah, and the code conformance as well.
Well, I think there's topics of traffic, right? I mean, not so much that it's going to directly impact the neighbors from everybody's coming off of 31, so it's not like we're asking he's asking for a curb cut onto somebody else's street or a driveway, private driveway. But the type of traffic, if you will, emergency vehicles, all of that kind of stuff,
dumpster pickup multiple
goes to how does that impact the neighborhood?
Yeah,
right?
Right.
And so I think understanding that.
I think we're blurring a little bit. I think we're blurring a little bit because our previous discussion was on a PUD, and those are different boxes you check.
But on a special use, you look at their operations, and part of their operations are how they organically operate on the site.
And that's what he gave us. He gave us very clear how he's going to operate. He's going to lock down. There's going to be so many residents, and there's going to be 2 caretakers at all times. And plus, he was clear about that, as far as operations and as far as what the property use will be.
Yeah, and again, I heard some concerns. We're not skilled nursing. It's not a medical facility. It's a home where we're going to have caretakers.
But you also, throughout your findings, throughout your submittals, you blend group home and assisted living, and then you've talked about memory care, something like memory care. At a certain point, the state has their own definitions of what actually is long-term care, what is nursing care, what is assisted living care.
Right.
To me, I would need more information on what those differences, because if you're saying, you are offering some things like assisted living, but those skills and you are getting towards memory care, it really isn't just a home, it really is a facility offering assisted living.
Right, then he doesn't qualify by our zoning code.
And that's where more information would be.
Right, well, I think that speaks to staff even bringing the application before us. That probably should have been addressed already.
Well, here, I would ask from staff, if we would like to continue the public hearing. Troy seems interested, and he would like us to provide that direct feedback. Is that something that we can make as part of our motion to continue the public hearing? Exactly the type of information we'd like to have brought back, whether that be data, a little more detailed drawing, or something that at the end of the day, he doesn't have to, but we can ask that as a purpose for him coming back. And then to the level he wants to check all those boxes to come back, or to submit to you to then come back to a separate date, would that be something that we could do?
Yes, if you could list the information that you want to see, and also you'll have to continue it to a specific date. So the next meeting date is May 5th. So typically you would continue to the next meeting date, and if Troy is not ready for that date, then at the next meeting it would be listed on the agenda, and there would be a request for a continuance. That's typically how it's done.
Not open.
Yeah. Yes, please.
I would just I'd reiterate what Alan just said. You should be very clear what you would ask the applicant to bring, so he can decide if he's willing and able to prepare and provide that. And then a suggestion for you, Mr. Chairman, take it or leave it. You might do a straw poll of the commissioners and just ask, could the applicant bring any information that would sway them maybe towards approval, or if people believe that their vote is a no vote, and that might be helpful for him in deciding if he wants to continue this or not.
Correct. I would agree. Thank you. But yes, I would agree. As much, if you will, direction and input as we can provide based on what we've asked and what we've heard, I think would be great. if we were to create a, if you will, a short list, or if there's specific things that you would like to see, then we can do that. That becomes part of our recommendation for continuing. I guess it continues to May 4th? Or no?
May 5th.
May 5th, sorry. May 5th. And then we'll figure it out whether it's actually going to be May 5th or does it get continued based on your ability to pull those things together or to bring the right people to answer questions and things like that from an operations standpoint. Okay? Because I think in fairness, there are things that have been either being concerned by neighbors or by this group that definitely, go against, or not go against, but directly relate to how any one of us in our final recommendation, to approve or not, feel about the project and how it, directly relates. If we have things like, all right, so our list as far as drawings or information to continue would be a little more architectural.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I think a landscape plan would be great, and then, parameters of the fencing around the property, setbacks, amount of
Does that
trees.
have anything to do with the use, excuse me? That's what I'm asking. I see down the road where that's important, but there's landscape.
Does it have to do with the use? But
Well, I would say if I'm...
I just want us to get out of our...
I understand that.
But
here, in fairness, Rita, you have a group of people, they're neighbors, and we are supposed to be assessing what the impacts and how that relates to those neighbors. And so to those neighbors, we have people who are concerned that, okay, there could be 20 emergency vehicles, ambulances, for a starting point, okay, arriving here, because you have 16 people who, by sheer definition, if you're generally qualified to be in assisted living, you're probably not in the best of health, period. Whether that's physical, cognitive, or both. And so if I'm going to be that neighbor, do I want to have some buffering? If I'm going to start to feel comfortable with this, okay, do I want to have some sort of landscape buffer that's beyond a simple landscape plan, okay, that meets the direct ordinance? This is a special use, and so we're talking about what is the application.
Oh, yeah, I see.
It is a special use.
No, I see, yeah.
It's exactly a special
use. It is
exactly a special use because we're assessing the impact to the surrounding uses and their ability to continue to use their property and not have a detriment to their values.
So that's what
that
we're
is
asking.
a direct thing that we're supposed to be asking about.
Right.
So whether it's a landscape plan, and that if he's heard people are concerned about that, he says, okay, in my landscape plan, as an example, even if it's still just conceptual, right, I'm going to do X level of buffering in these areas because I got 20 and 30-foot setbacks from my building, and I can do that, and here's the level of screening. Or I've looked at the landscape ordinance it has different levels of buffer yards, if you will, even if it's not required. I'm willing to do this level of buffer yard per the ordinance, so that creates a definition for what you would do. Doesn't mean you have to put every little tree and shrub in it, but I think that sort of a plan helps to describe things and address these comments, because that's part of what we're supposed to ask ourselves before we answer each one of those 6 questions. So I think it is, in my opinion,
and the scalability of the architecture, does it adhere, is it contextual to the neighboring houses?
The neighboring houses?
Right, the size of, the height of the roof, the proportions, or does it look like a commercial building?
Right.
I mean, that's,
right.
Right.
And I think because, in fairness to Trey, he started with an idea of what the architecture should be. We have no idea what the context of that architecture was in the neighborhood as it met the ordinances or anything like that. So I appreciate that you shared that with us today, given that our package had nothing in it, okay? But I think to the point of, well, do we feel like it feels and relates to a neighborhood? And again, how people perceive, is my property value impacted? Those are specific questions we do have to answer positively or negatively, right? But I think having that
That's one of the 6, right?
Right. Regardless of whether it's on a checklist, I think it's part of what we're supposed to do, given the context of the neighborhood and the lot in which he is actually proposing this. If he was in a different zoning district, and forget the special use, maybe these questions wouldn't even be important. But he isn't there. He's here, where he is. And so I think it is relevant.
You know, and there are ways to make it look like a house, right? And give the illusion of a house. And, you know, moving the parking, I mean, the neighbor to the north had valid concerns about the parking being so close to the property line. So creating that buffer and centering the parking towards, you know, the center of the lot. I mean, these are all ideas that, you know,
again,
could help you sell the idea to us. And,
you know, I mean, the parking is 300 feet from the nearest home, and about 100 feet from that private road, and with all the buffering in between.
Yeah. So we're talking about, so we're giving him a list, if you will, of things that we'd like to have a better understanding of, to the extent that he can produce that and come back on the 5th of May. Or it would get continued because you're not here, and we could just then agree to continue it to the next meeting.
And just for clarity,
19th or something.
right, that this body here doesn't have to agree with all 6. They just have to disagree with one. And then we don't recommend.
That's the definition, right? And then, you know, well, not even everybody. It's just the majority has to agree.
Right, with any of them, though.
Right. The majority has to. Correct. Okay. So we have a conceptual landscape plan, a little more time and energy in articulating the architecture from an exterior standpoint, so that we can have a sense of, and others can have a sense of how it relates to the neighborhood's architecture, and those kind of comments. A number of operational questions. I think that we had licensing questions related to, okay, what does the license that you are going to get allow you to have people, forget about whose mom or dad it is, or if it's a couple having a separate room, or however that works, you know, for your 16 beds. Well, what does the license truly allow you, and what is the definition or the parameters to that, both in its minimalist and its most extreme condition?
Just for clarification, the shared housing establishment license parameters.
I think, and how you're seeing the niche that you want to create, right? How does that work? But you still have to have a license that at least meets some minimum requirements. But then, how are you seeing what you're trying to do fit that? And I think that goes to some of the operations topics. All right. Corey, anything else?
No. You know, overall, in regards to engineering, I know some people have mentioned plans for engineering. That's an exorbitant amount of costs. I think that's all stuff that city staff can work through as far as the utility access. So I'm not, you know, necessarily for this. That's not something I would want to require. I'm guessing staff has a rough estimate on those costs already, but you know, that's you know, as far as they've said that there is the ability to serve it, subject to extensions and improvements being made, and that's something that then the property owner would just have to bear those costs.
Yeah.
So
and it sounds like Troy's already aware of that.
And I just want to make that clear.
There's an infrastructure cost that he's going to have to bear, if you will, on an off-site condition, not just on-site. You have an off-site condition that you have to do to make your project viable from the city's perspective, from a utility standpoint.
I did have one question. I did have one question about the sidewalk and or path comment by staff. What's your feelings on that for the frontage of the property?
My understanding is it would be within the right-of-way of the IDOT. Or no, it would be, sorry.
The exact location would be to be determined, but potentially it could be within the right-of-way dedication. He's going to be needing to dedicate 23 feet of right-of-way to IDOT along State Route 31, and so the bike path could potentially fall within that area. If it is on his private property, there would just need to be a public sidewalk easement over it.
Yeah. Right.
I don't see any problems with that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. Anything else?
No.
You're good for now?
Yeah, I just was curious, are you going to do the straw poll to, just so him to
Yep.
know?
Yeah.
If he brings all this.
Right. So for our group here, given what you know now, still have some things that might change things, but how do you feel about the project as a special use? And we can go left to right.
With what's been shown, or?
No, if he brings back, are you open to?
I mean, I'm 50/50, so
Okay, 50/50, okay?
Yeah, I am very interested in this, and more information would help me make a decision.
Okay, all right. I am teetering, honestly. I'm not absolutely no, but I would like to find out more to help me, if you will, be more informed. I'm not against the project, just on its offset, but I do want to understand more before I can make a final decision. So I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was pretty clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
My opinion could be shifted towards supporting this, subject to information on the license parameters. What is the bounds that you can operate within from a medical standpoint and care?
John?
No.
No.
All right. Yeah, I think it's too big of a project for the neighborhood.
Okay. All right. Troy?
And we're missing one commissioner.
Troy, is that enough information for now?
I suppose so, but yeah, I'll digest it all and
I understand.
figure out.
All right. So we will officially vote to continue the public hearing. And can I have roll call? Colleen?
Do we make a motion?
I'm sorry?
Do we make a motion to continue?
Yes.
And Troy, would the May 5th date work for you, or would you prefer to push it back a little longer? So May 19th would be another possibility, if you'd prefer. They have to continue it to special. We could just do May 5th, and then if you're not ready, we can push it.
Okay. Don't worry. Okay. So yes.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to continue.
Okay. Have a second?
I'll second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to continue the public hearing
You continue to May 5th.
to May 5th. Okay. And then if we hear that the applicant is not ready, then we can come and move it to May 19th or something like that. Okay. All right. All right. So roll call. Colleen Visa?
Yes.
Zach Ewald?
Yes.
Jeff Funk?
Yes.
John Fitzgerald?
No.
Corey Jones?
No.
Rita Paitleiner?
No.
Myself, yes. So let's see, what was that? Yeah.
3-3.
4-3. Okay. So then that is the end of our, we will not have item 6B tonight because we didn't close the public hearing. So we were on to item 7, general public comment. We've already heard from everybody on this topic, but is there general public comment? I'm sorry?
Yes. New chairs or shorter meetings, yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
all right, we'll
yeah.
get some pads. Staff, let's make note of that. We're gonna get some pads for these seats. All right, weekly development report, meeting announcement. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you.